All right, ladies and gentlemen of the Heavy Metal History Podcast, I am stoked to welcome to this week's episode Adrian, Jason, and Max from Warforged.
Woo.
What up? Hey, guys.
Yeah, so this is kind of a rare occasion getting more than one member. I think this is like the third time I've had like multiple members of bands on the podcast, so this is always much more of a treat for me because I like hearing everybody's like different aspects and parts that they bring to the music and, you know, their influences and everything like that. So this is going to be awesome.
Cool.
Yeah. Hell yeah.
So the thing that I always like to start with, let's see, we'll go around. We'll start with Max since I can see you. You're on my right side.
Cool.
I like to start with what were your first heavy metal influences? What were those first bands and records that you kind of remember getting into and just like sucked you into it, man?
Yeah, so my brother, he's the bass player in the band, so him and I have always been together with stuff. So for us, it was always like Metallica and Megadeth were the first ones in there. And
Classic.
it went a weird way where, because our cousin got us into that stuff, like metal for the most part, and instead of like, my next progression was like melodic death metal, but instead of In Flames like most people or something like that, I went to this band Beyond the Embrace.
Fuck yeah.
They're from
Hell yeah.
Massachusetts. They had 2 albums on Metal Blade, and they sound like, you know, they got that melodic death metal sound, but they're American, and that band blew me away. Then I discovered At the Gates and In Flames and Soilwork after that, which is kind of backwards, but I love Beyond the Embrace. That band is awesome. And then from there kind of went to more metalcore stuff, like God Forbid.
Yeah.
Huge fan of God Forbid, Killswitch Engage, all those kind of bands. And that's kind of like all the stuff I still gravitate towards. But yeah, I would say like Metallica and Megadeth were the first ones. Like, I think a lot of people would say that, but those bands just have always, like Metallica still want to play that stuff today. You know, it's just so pure and sick. So
what was your, I guess, go-to or favorite Metallica record? We were keeping track of this for a while back in the day because everybody would say for a while like just one album, and then people started saying different ones, and I love hearing what everybody's different Metallica album is.
So my non-offensive one would be Justice, but if you want to go right to my soul, it would be Saint Anger, because I was getting into Metallica when that album came out, and I don't know. It's a weird album, and I'm a contrarian in a lot of ways too. So I want to like stuff that other people don't like, but I love how weird that album is and how it just isn't right. And like you can hear like this huge band like wondering what the hell is happening to us and like where are we gonna go, you know? And you can sense the fear I think in that, and also like what the hell are we doing and how are we gonna be relevant nowadays? Because you could kind of tell they were worried about that when they made the album, and there's a lot of cool riffs on it. And the production's weird and janky, but I like that. And yeah, it's but Justice is like my traditional Metallica album that I love, and just a lot of good riffs on that album for sure. So
I feel, yeah, Justice was the one everybody typically says, rightfully so. I always say Ride the Lightning personally.
Okay.
But I have been hearing people bring up Saint Anger more and more, and I think having context with that documentary they did around that record gives it a little bit more, I guess, leeway with like their experimentation. But man, that was like what made me stop listening to them for a long time.
It's definitely not like I say that, people are just like, "What's wrong with you?" It's like, well, I don't know. It's
got good taste, dude.
Yeah,
That's
man.
what's up.
And I do like Load and Reload a lot too. Like I think those are cool. Like they're not Metallica metal albums, but they're still cool like rock and roll records, I think. And there's a lot of like sick riffs on there that if you want it to be like super fast, it's not going to be that. But if you want something different that's still got like that Hetfield, like down dirty Southern kind of hick riff shit going on. Like I love that stuff, man. Yeah, those riffs are cool. Just like Hetfield playing is just like dude. That's always cool.
Pissed.
So yeah.
Well, at least you didn't say Lulu.
Yeah, that actually is not a good album for sure. As a contrarian, I would still not like that album.
Wait,
so.
I'm not. I'm so sorry. Sorry to interject. I'm not a Metallica guy. Is the album called Lulu?
Yeah, it was that project he did with Lou. They did with Lou Reed. Remember
Yeah, the cut my tits off.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the only part I know about it.
Spermless like a girl. Spermless like a girl.
Yeah, it's a weird album, man. It's a dude ranting weird poetry over Hetfield B-side riffs.
I love it.
Oh,
It's like
man.
sick. Honestly, like conceptually, I think that's so sick, dude.
Yeah.
I do agree. I don't like it, but that concept, when you put it that way, it's like, oh fuck, that's like cool.
Yeah, it's weird and neat, cool. But it's cool, man.
If it wasn't called a Metallica album, I think a lot more people would have gravitated towards it. That's the problem with it, is that it's a Metallica album.
Yeah, it's not a Metallica album. It shouldn't be, but it's weird and neat, but it's not weird. Metallica.
So, Adrian, what about you, man? What are your beginning kind of influences and records?
Oh, boy. In the 7th grade, I remember getting a mix CD when that was still a thing. You know,
oh, yeah.
Now that we're old farts and stuff. I got a mix CD, and it was more lighter stuff. It was Against Me and At the Drive-In, and maybe a Darkest Hour song or two. At Blink 182 for sure. And then I was like, I really like the aggression of Darkest Hour. And then I found Music Choice on Demand, and I heard Horse the Band and System of a Down. I think that was the first time I was just like, oh shit, I like this. This is fucking weird. It was like weird and mischievous sounding, but aggressive, but also like really musical. Like some of the shit, it's goofy. I'm talking about System of a Down for the record.
Yeah.
Some of the shit is like really, really fucking goofy and like laughable, but it's all just like, oh man, that's cool. I can write that. That's the shit, man. So yeah, System of a Down for a long time, Darkest Hour, Dead to Fall, and then in high school I was introduced all at once to like BT Bam and Faceless and Veil of Mine. I was just like, oh shit, this is more like weird dissonant shit. I really like it.
Yeah.
But I skipped over the whole like classic like Metallica, Megadeth, Black Sabbath, Lamb of God. Yeah, I skipped over all that and I went for like the weird shit right away. Yeah.
It's funny you mentioned mix CDs. That's how I got a lot of stuff in high school, and your musical taste sounds a lot like mine in high school too, being just like all over the place with, like At the Drive-In to pop punk to like Dimmu Borgir and stuff like that. It's just like, I guess it's just how you found music back then, because the internet was just kind of starting and people would just throw stuff on an album and be like, here,
yeah,
pirate it.
Totally.
The beginning of the end, I guess, with piracy.
Yeah.
And not everyone could do that. I remember like in 7th grade, I'd download stuff for people that couldn't. And they'd like they'd pay me like $3. I'd be like, here's a CD of what you wanted. It's like, this is totally illegal. Like, but it's like, getting paid to download music for people. Yeah. So yeah, it was always like, that was such a cool way to introduce people to stuff.
Wait,
it was
you took money for it?
Yeah.
Oh man, you're saying this?
I did that too. I'm not gonna lie.
That I was like, it was for the cost of the CD, Like, I need money for the blank CD. So yeah, that's what it is. And then like, well, it's my time too, so it's a service I'm providing, But yeah, dude, mix CDs were like the shit, because now it's just like everything's so shoved in your face. And back then it was like, these are the 7 songs or whatever on the CD, or 15, I don't know, that like this is what you had to listen to. And it definitely formed your opinion of stuff much more intensely, I think, than it would now, because of how you're forced to that's all you had,
Yeah, and I think that since that's all you had like, you spent more time on those songs.
Definitely.
Now, like, I tried for a second, let's do Spotify playlists, and CDs aren't a thing. I tried doing that for a minute, and it just wasn't right, because then you still have the freedom to, like, skip out of it, and go to, like, the vast ocean of, the rest of the music that's in the world right now. It just doesn't have the same feeling to it.
Yeah, I remember when I was in high school, I would wear CDs out to where I would buy them, like, multiple times in a row. And now I'm surprised, like, if I listen to something for more than, like, a month or two, because I get bored or just something new comes out and I have to move on to it, and there's no longevity anymore. It's rare that I listen to something that lasts like more than a year. I'm always surprised if it does.
I think it's impressive that even to listen to something for a month now, though, because I think a lot of times it's like you're popping something new in every couple of days or a week, at most. And the last thing I listened to for a month, which was recently, was the new Soilwork album, and I'll listen to their shit for like a month straight. But most stuff, it's hard to do more than like a day or two, because it's like, I want to listen to something else now because there's so many choices,
Yep. Yeah, it's hard, man. Especially too when I get like promo stuff from bands. It's just like trying to put that in with recreational listening. That's fucking hard, because sometimes I don't want to listen to stuff that I get, and it's just like I put it off until the last minute, but I want to listen to like this record that's like stuck in my head right now. And it's like trying to balance that is something a lot of people, I'm not used to that yet.
Yeah,
that's real
that's
shit
just,
though, man. Like even when it comes to our own music, sometimes like I have trouble like where I'm like, oh, I gotta listen to these songs to like remember how to play them. But then like I find myself listening to just more shit that I'm like, I'll listen to it later. And then I'm like, why am I doing this? Like,
so Jason, let's move on to you then, man. Let's hear your kind of beginning bands and records there.
I think my approach to heavy music was a little different as well. I did start with like basic bands, but when I was a kid, my dad was heavily, I mean, he still is, he's heavily into like progressive rock. So he would show me, he's a huge Rush fan, and he's a huge fan of bands like King Crimson, Yes, Genesis. And I grew up listening to the records, like the vinyl he had, you know, of these bands. And when you start like listening to music in that type of context, it makes you want, you know, it gives you this more explorative sense. So it's like you want to find like the next thing, like what else is there that's like crazy sounding. And I know it's not very crazy sounding, but I remember my dad, he had like the first Black Sabbath record, like he had the LP of it, and you look at like the cover and it's this like witch, and it actually is like scary. And he's like, look at this shit. I mean, he didn't say that like when I was a kid, but he'd be like, look at this, and like,
look at this shit.
yeah. So Black Sabbath was a big one, but it also like I remember a pinnacle moment for me getting into heavy music was in 7th grade. Me and one of my best friends, his name's Eric Meyer, we broke into this kid's locker. I'm not gonna say who that kid was, but like his name was Graham.
Graham.
Yeah, dude.
I'm not gonna say who it is. Oh, it's Graham.
We like his locker door was ajar. It was really easy to crack it open, and we did. And he had the edited versions of Believe by Disturbed and Toxicity by System of a Down. So we stole those CDs and we were like, whoa, this is fucking next level shit. Like, and it kind of just grew from there. It was listening to bands like that, then getting kind of tired of it really fast, and like I felt like by the time I was hitting high school, I was listening to bands like At the Gates, In Flames, as well as like metalcore bands like Max was mentioning, like Killswitch Engage. But then like a big turning point for me was like specifically hearing Annihilation of the Wicked by Nile, because I had never heard anything that heavy before. And like I think I was 15 when I first heard that, and it was just like, holy shit. Like, I mean, that's still like one of my favorite records of all time, because I don't think anything has topped it as far as like just how intense it is when you first put it on. Even the production, it's just like, and I love Nile still, but I don't think a record they put out has like even comes close to that. And that was a big influence on me wanting to go further into like the world of death metal. That Demigod by Behemoth was another one, and like you said, Puritanical by Demu. That's like,
oh man, that is pinnacle Demu right there.
Yeah, if you listen very closely, half the fills I do on the Warforged record and all of our discography, I basically lived straight from like Nick Barker. So, but he's a big influence on mine. And hearing him play like on Kings of the Carnival Creation, and I mean some of those songs on that record, it's just like, wow, this is fucking nuts. But yeah, I don't know. I would say that was like, those were like my bread and butter albums, like that kind of shaped how I got to where I was. But then I mean, metal is like an ever in a certain sense, I think it changes. Like it changes with the times, and like your tastes change as well. Like now some of the stuff I listen to is way different than, you know, what I would be listening to back then. Like stuff I would listen to now is like, I would like 7 years ago, I would never picture myself liking the stuff I do now. So you never know. It's always ever changing, that stuff.
For sure.
Same.
No, it really is. It's funny too, like how quickly when you first start listening to metal, you just go deeper and deeper down that hole to the most heavy, brutal side of it. And it's just like overnight almost. And I always wonder about people who never really try to go beyond that. You know, they stay like at the Five Finger Death Punch area of metal, or Ghost.
Hell yeah.
And like that's cool too. You know, like I get that.
Totally.
That music definitely has its place. And I like to think of bands like that, especially like Ghost now. It's like leeway for people into, you know, getting into the heavier bands, getting into heavier music, and getting into, you know, it's like cool that it reaches us. It's because, I mean, obviously metal is a very elitist based genre, and I mean everybody could say something bad about basically anything, and it's so funny if you really think about it in like a grand aspect, like what's really that different here? And it, like, you know, you could mention one band, somebody will be like, oh, I fucking hate that band, and then they'll mention another band and will be like, oh, I love it. And it's like, you know, like if you added one thing or took away one thing, they're basically like the same.
Yeah, right. That's very true.
Yeah. And for the record, my favorite fucking Metallica records are Load and Reload. Easily.
Okay.
Now.
Is that oh, no, they have a record called Fuel, right?
No, Fuel's the single on Reload.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I always think of that and Eat My Bitch.
Yeah,
that's Low, dude. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. Like, I used to really like Master of Puppets when I was growing up, because that was like the prog Metallica album to me. Like, it was like, oh, these songs are really long and they go so many places, and I still like it, but now, like, if I'm listening to Metallica, I go right to Load and Reload. I think those songs.
I just want that punch.
I love the period of where that band was, because I mean, if you think about it in context, like they blew up with the Black Album, and it was kind of like, where do you go from there? And they just did a 180. They cut off all their hair. I think that's such a sick, like, ballsy move. Yeah. And they wrote hits. There's some really fucking good songs on both those records. There's some questionable songs for sure, but that's even more fun because, like, you get to hear a band like Metallica write. I wouldn't call it a pop record, but at the time, you know, it reflected a lot of popular music. And I think that, I don't know, it's such a cool timepiece to me. And, like, even, like, the I Disappear single they did for the...
Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah, Mission Impossible 2.
Oh, man.
That song's... I think that song's heavy as shit, dude. I think it's so sick.
Yeah, I dig it because it's a precursor to the Saint Anger style.
Oh,
but, yeah,
definitely.
It's a weird song because, yeah, it's weird, like, hearing that than, like, listening to, like, you know... Yeah, like Leper Messiah.
Did they do that after Load and Reload?
Like, what?
Yeah, dude, that song's that's way better than Leper Messiah.
I don't know about that.
I do.
I do like that song a lot too.
I back that. Dustin, I can't see you, so I can't tell if you're like cringing when I'm like going on about this. And
no, man, I find that so fascinating. Like, just because it's maligned in one aspect, you talked about the whole elitism thing. Like, I'm a big proponent of liking what you like unabashedly. Like, who gives a fuck if it's not cool?
That's what I'm saying, man. It's like when somebody comes up to you and they're like, what's your guilty pleasure? It's like, why the fuck should you ever feel guilty about liking a song or a band or an artist? It's like, come on. Like
just before, may I?
Yeah.
May I? Just before this podcast started, we were all singing the fucking Nickelback song. You know?
We were.
Great song.
Testing out the microphone.
It is a great song. It's a hit. There was a reason that song's so successful, man.
We don't have to get into it. But yeah, it was a good song.
No, it's funny, man. I mean, even seeing guys like Devin Townsend do stuff with Chad from Nickelback, like, you can tell that some people definitely respect what they do in terms of, like, their popularity. And
he's about to turn that whole every metalhead's opinion around about Nickelback. Just watch. Give it a year from now. I guarantee it. People are going to be like, yeah, this band's fine.
Yeah,
I
everybody's hating on Imagine Dragons now.
Yeah, which I'm down with too.
Yeah, I'm down
because that band kind of sucks for pop music. But
yeah, that's right. Everybody's on the fuck Imagine Dragons train.
There's this interview I was watching with Phil Anselmo. He was talking about how bands now don't take influences. Like in his time, he was saying, like, bands would take, like, 10 bands, and this is what we want to sound like. And now it's very much, like he was saying, now it's, like, 1 or 2 bands, this is what I want to be. And I think, like, not having a guilty pleasure and just listening to a bunch of different music will create better music, too, where you're not like, oh, I listen to, like, you know, one band and this is what I sound like. It's like, oh, clearly that's what the band you listen to and that's what your band sounds like. When if you take, like, all these different, you take, you know, I like Imagine Dragons and Nickelback and The Cure, and I'm gonna, like, make a band out of that with, you know, like, Decrepit Birth influence. Like, that's gonna be way cooler than a guy who's just like, oh, I want to just write another Periphery album, you know. And it's something cool to think about when you take all these influences and, you know, stir them up.
You gotta break down barriers, man.
Hell yeah.
I love when bands have outside influences like that too, because when you try to describe that band to people and you have to say stuff like, oh, they sound like The Cure mixed with the Smiths mixed with, like, Darkthrone, you know, and it's like, well, how the fuck does that work? Listen to them, it works.
I can't imagine those dragons, you know. I need to hear it. Yeah, it's sick, man.
But I mean, again, that's why I ask everybody their influences, because I think that's an important part of, like, where you guys are, you know, as musicians, because if you didn't hear that stuff, you wouldn't be playing the music you are now, you know?
Absolutely.
Oh, sure. Wait, I'm sorry. I don't know if this really meshes in here too well, but I forgot one band. Nine Inch Nails. Not that they're heavy metal means, but like that was definitely an introduction to like aggression in music, and I like loved it. Like they have a lot of shouting parts in their songs, and they always make me think of like factory workers like in the future.
Hell yeah.
So it's just like angry factory workers wearing like jumpsuits being pissed off all the time.
What kind of factory though? Are we talking
like one that makes electricity?
Electricity factory? That's
power plant.
That's one of my favorite kind of
electricity
factories.
and like smoke.
Smoke. That's sick too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a fair thing to include because you have bands like Godflesh that were kind of had that, I guess what industrial is the term. So I don't know. I don't discount Nine Inch Nails. Maybe not their newer stuff. It's not as metal, but those early records were definitely very much metal influenced.
Pissed.
Yeah,
That's
it's like
just
music
my
doesn't
opinion.
need to be metal to be like heavy in a sense if you think about it like that.
Yep.
Yeah, you can find aggression in every genre. It's just like the textures that the people use to like bring about that aggression. That's what changes really.
Yeah. So let's another thing I'd like to talk about, in terms of music, maybe not heavy metal, but how did each of you guys get interested in wanting to play music? Because, I mean, it's not an easy thing to start, much less try to make a career out of. Use that in quotations, career. It's a hard road, man. So, Adrian, let's start with you. We'll go the other way around.
Okay, cool. I was in high school and I didn't have a lot of friends, and I went to an all-boys Catholic high school.
Ouch.
And and I think it was like I was listening to Protest the Hero. That's another band. I was listening to Protest the Hero, and I was like singing along, and it got to like a yelling, screaming part, and I was just like, oh, maybe I want to try that. That could be kind of cool. And I just like I nailed a blanket to the doorway in my room because I didn't have I had like a sliding door to my bedroom, so that was my way of soundproofing the room. And doesn't that work? Come on,
It's
guys.
sick, dude. Yeah, it's cool. Plan.
And I just like blasted Protest the Hero, and Darkest Hour, Dead to Fall, Job for a Cowboy. That was another good one in the high school years. And I just like blasted that and yelled along until it like stopped hurting. But I think it was like I always had some sort of like interest in, I don't know,
Performing?
Yeah, but I never knew how to, and I never knew what like avenue it would be, because I always wanted to be the center of attention somehow, as like petty as that is. Like, I don't know, but it's the honest answer. Yeah, but music was like the first way that I was like, oh yeah, let me fucking try this, because I don't know, I was like music, even though I didn't grow up in a musical household by any means, but yeah.
So how did that lead to you kind of wanting to find a band to join or start your own band?
I don't remember exactly how it went. I remember I somehow knew this one kid, Nick, and I asked him, I was like, just out of the blue, I don't even remember how we would have met, but I remember asking him like, hey, I do metal vocals. I think he was like one of the kids in my school, because we wore uniforms that wore skinny jeans, and I was like, that dude likes some stuff that I like probably, so I'm going to ask him if he knows anybody that needs a vocalist. And then it was just like, from then on, any story you'd hear, you start off and then you play in some suburban garage bands, and just fuck around.
So I was really curious too, man, because okay, so did you tour with In Full Darkness or just record a song for them?
I recorded 2 songs with them, and I did 3 tours. I don't think I was in the band for longer than a year. I think I joined in like October of 2011, and I quit August of 2012. And I recorded for the first version of Layers of the Ascended Masters, and then the first version of what's it called?
Banishment?
Yeah, Banishment. Yeah, that song.
This is gonna sound really weird, but I think we might have toured together.
Oh no shit.
Yeah, because we toured. Did you ever do a tour with Carnifex?
No, I didn't.
Okay, then we didn't tour together. Because we did one really small run with Enfold. I forget when it was, but I feel like it was around the time you would have been involved with him. But I guess maybe not.
Yeah,
What band were you touring in?
I was working for Carnifex.
Oh, cool. Right on.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we didn't have any. Well, at least I wasn't with them then. I only did. It was the first one was Obscura, Abysmal Dawn, and
What was it for your leg? Because
And
Last
yeah.
Chance to Reason was on one of the other
first
legs.
half, and then the second one was After the Spire, Abiotic, and Veil of Nath. And then the third one was Summer Slaughter Survivors of 2012, which was like Fallujah and
Pathology.
yeah, and Aegean. Was that the
Yep,
one that they were
yep,
on? Yeah,
they were on that.
Aegean, Fit for an Autopsy. I know I'm missing a couple. I think I'm missing a couple.
So we almost crossed paths there. That's pretty interesting, though, at least. And I know for me too, like, because I grew up in Tennessee, and Full of Darkness were always like a local band for me. Them and Whitechapel.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's kind of a little small knit group here, I guess. But I moved away from here like a long time ago and just moved back. So it's been interesting getting reacquainted with the music scene again.
Hell yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, there's a lot of shit going on down there, especially with Malcolm and all his network.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there's a bunch of cool
crazy.
bands. We played with some cool bands in Nashville last summer.
Yeah. It was cool.
Yeah, Nashville is the place for music right now. It's kind of cool because I'm like in the central area, so like Nashville's an hour and a half away, Atlanta's an hour and a half away, and Knoxville's an hour away. So I have all these awesome cities to go to for like shows and bands and music scene and stuff like that. But I don't know. It's what is it like for you guys there? And Jason, we'll come back to you in just a second. I'm sorry, getting off on a tangent.
It's all good.
What is like the music scene where you guys are at?
Oh wow, that's
Yeah, it's definitely not like Nashville, or definitely not like I always hear about Bay Area like nonstop.
Yeah, I lived there for 7 years. It's wild up there.
Yeah,
I feel like for the Chicago metal scene, it's so all over the place that there is camaraderie, but finding like the big thing like that's going on now in Chicago is like if anybody's been paying attention to like news and whatnot metal wise, but Prosthetic Records like has scooped up a shit ton of bands from here, and it's kind of like become one of the bigger like facets of metal right now, like bands, and there's some great bands that that they've picked up that we're buddies with too. Zeus, Varaha, I think I'm saying that right. There's Without Waves. I'm just like kind of thinking off the top of my head, but they've signed a lot of bands, and it's kind of like this post-metal in different styles sound that's kind of become one of the bigger things of the Chicago metal scene. And I mean, it would like kind of what Adrian said, like the Bay Area has that like tech death thing going on where every band's on unique leader and like they all know each other and everybody's kind of friends. Like there's definitely some camaraderie amongst that in Chicago, but I feel like there's a lot of variety going on here where it's like sometimes it's a good thing and sometimes it's a not great thing. I feel like I don't know. I think everybody who goes to a show wants something different. I like a lot of variety at a show, so you're not seeing the same type of band like 5 times in a row, which can be cool in the Chicago metal scene, but things can get kind of cliquey sometimes, I would say.
I think so.
And it's not always in a bad way, but just kind of like, why? Like, we're not in high school anymore.
Also, on that note, and this is just my perspective on it, like, I don't know. I could also just be like out of the bubble. Maybe I'm just not going to the right shows,
Yeah. And I mean, there are shows where a lot of other people, like, everybody's friends there. I mean, I try to go to a lot of local metal shows around Chicago. I think it's, like, a smart thing to do. I mean, you want to be aware of what's going on, especially in your hometown and, what's big, what's going on, what bands are cool. And there's a shit ton of cool bands from Chicago. There's some bands that, like, we are very close with that we love. Could shout some of them out. There's Immortal Bird is one. I actually play in another band called Roman Ring, and one of my guitar players in that band is in Immortal Bird. They're a really cool up and coming band.
Baron Air.
Yeah, Baron Air, also very good friends of ours. Epitasis, a tech death band from here, who's also really sick.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a shit ton that we could sit here. Outrun the Sunlight, great dudes, and they've definitely got their own. They have a lot of hype going for them, which is really cool. One of the bigger bands from here, I would say. There's a ton we could talk about.
Yeah.
But overall, it's a very changing thing. Like, and I hate to sound like one of those dudes, but I feel like Chicago has always kind of been the encapsulation of like what's trending in metal right now. I mean.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like I mean, it's probably everywhere. Maybe I'm just saying it because I'm biased, and we've lived in Illinois and Chicago our whole lives. But like, back in like when I was in high school, it was the MySpace days. So bands like I Wrestled a Bear once, like those types of bands were huge. And then now it's like. Then there was bands like Deaf Heaven were really popular. It's always like ever changing, and then people seem to gravitate towards that. Like,
wait, but Ever So Bear Once isn't from Chicago, are they?
No, but I'm just saying, like, as far as what people like, you know what I mean, and the type of bands the one thing that's funny about like. And I'm not trying to say it in a boastful way, but I feel like Warforged, we've been around for a while, and like we've all been trying to do the music thing for so long that we've seen a lot of people in Chicago kind of come and go, and all of like the styles of like metal that were really big here and then kind of went away, and then the new styles that come about and then those go away.
The trends.
And it's not always a bad thing. There's some. I mean, I would say for every single time period that I'm referring to, there's always been like some bands that I love that do that style.
Yeah, definitely.
But it's just interesting.
In the high school days, I mean, I don't know. And my reference point to your original question about like the quality of the scene, my reference point is like my high school days when like Oceano was like. They were like, oh shit, like the Kings.
Yeah.
Back then, at least in Chicago.
Veil of Maya.
Yeah, Veil of Maya.
Port of Osiris.
Like Darkest Hour and Darkest Hour isn't from Chicago, but Dead to Fall was just breaking up then. But that was like, I feel like that was probably, at least from anywhere near my bubble, like Dead to Fall was probably.
Oh, they were huge.
Yeah.
I mean that
to go show.
Farewell show. Yeah.
Yeah, the farewell show is nuts, man. That was awesome.
You were there. I was there.
Yeah.
I was.
We didn't even know each other then, but we were there.
Yeah.
I mean, now they've been doing reunion shows, and I
do insane in Chicago.
Yeah.
They
yeah, like immediately.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy, dude. Yeah, and I actually had John on my podcast about a year ago, and he was saying they're working on new stuff, and I was just like, what? With all like the original lineup too.
First album lineup. Yeah, that's what we've heard. They actually did we were gone. We were on tour for it, but they did a show with a buddy of ours bands called Something Is Waiting. They played at this venue called the Cobra Lounge, and I really wanted to go, but unfortunately we were gone. But
hey, tour is more important.
Yeah, sometimes.
That's for sure.
Definitely.
Sometimes. So we got off on that tangent.
Yeah,
that's
sorry
fine.
about that.
That's probably going to happen a lot. Jason, how did you get into drumming?
Shit.
I got into it basically from my dad. Well, my dad has played drums since he was a kid. He never really took it super like serious and was never doing any bands. But when I was like young, like maybe like 9 or 10, my dad had like this midlife crisis thing where like he needed a drum kit for one of his birthdays, and he bought one. And when I was in like elementary school, like me and my friends always talked about like being in a band. And what was funny was initially I wanted to play guitar. Like my mom went out and bought me a guitar and an amp, and like I took guitar lessons, but I kind of hated it, and I hated practicing guitar. It just like wasn't fun. And I ended up just kind of becoming the kid with a drum kit, and I would just play it more. And then it kind of naturally just fell into place that way. And drums just felt more natural to me, I guess. And I guess I really don't have that much of a profound answer as far as like how I got really into drumming, but
it's just cool, man.
Yeah, it's just it was fun to do. I had the kit when I was a kid, and a lot of kids didn't have drum kits, at least where I was, and it was kind of like the unpopular instrument, and I still kind of think it is at least like, not to go on another tangent, but in the Chicago realm of musicians, it's like drummers are very few and far in between, and you will see that there's drummers from this area that are in like 5 bands.
Yeah, dude, that's why I like wanted to be friends with you, because at the time our drummer was going to go to school in Milwaukee. I was like, dude, Jason's a sick dude. He's a good drummer. Maybe he can play in my band. And sure enough, it spawned into more than just, a selfish thing on my end to get him as a friend. But yeah, it's like drummers are hard to find. And like when you see a dude like Jason, it's like, I want you because I know you're going to kill it. So.
Oh, I want you.
That's flattering.
I want you, Jason. Hey.
Yeah, and it was just kind of like I stuck with it, and I felt like drums were the one thing for a really long time in my life, and still definitely where I'm like, okay, I could do this like kind of good, but not 100%. But I was always just like, you know what, I could do this. Like, I feel confident playing drums, so it kind of just stuck, I guess.
I mean, I feel like drummers are definitely a rare breed across the genre as a whole. I mean, that's why I love that joke in Spinal Tap where they're on like their 5th drummer and something always happens to them. It's like that all over the place, man. It seems like it's so hard to keep drummers in bands, and
I
don't know what it is.
Sure. And I mean, it's ironic because I'm the one constant drummer in this band, and as long as everything goes okay, I have no plans on changing that by any means. Yeah.
We've actually brought you here today, Jason, to tell you that you're out.
Yeah, we can't.
We hired.
I'm in.
Yeah, Dustin's doing it. All right.
I literally have only ever played drums once, so good luck, guys.
Yeah, man, you're fucking in, bro.
Max, what about you, man, with the guitar?
So it kind of goes back to like the Metallica Megadeth thing, because I remember. So I'll bring my brother Alex, our bass player, back to this, because him and I have always been doing stuff for a while now. So it's like he's always been a big part of that. And our cousin got us into that stuff, and it was just kind of like, oh, this is cool. I want to play it too. And it's always kind of been just, wanting to do what I thought cool people were doing. Like you see James Hetfield, like, dude, I want to be James Hetfield. Like, that's sick. I want to look cool like that. So I got a guitar and just started playing. And a big part of keeping that going was, being with Alex and him and I kind of always playing together, because I think I'm not a very, at least when I was younger, I wasn't very social with things. I would just keep to myself and be really quiet. So having your brother kind of like play with you, it's like you'd write stuff together and work off that. And we've been in a handful of bands together. So yeah, that was just kind of like, why would I not play guitar? It's just always something I've enjoyed, and I definitely think it not to get too weird with it, but it's definitely like a therapy in a way with stuff where.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's weird at all, man. I think it's an outlet, it's much of a creative outlet as it is an emotional outlet, because your creativity is working off those emotions. So then you get that out, and then bam, you got a guitar riff, like you said. And I mean, I think it makes perfect sense. I think a lot of people probably write that way. I mean, for the most part, it would seem.
That's true. I guess it's not that weird, but it's cool how something that's an object can like make you feel good. As opposed to a human contact where I could talk to someone about my problems, but I could just play guitar and like feel better than if I talk to someone. So I don't know. It's kind of cool.
So who are like your kind of guitar idols? I know everybody. I mean, I know you mentioned like James and Megadeth and Metallica. Who were those guys that kind of like really sucked you into it?
Definitely John Petrucci. I mean, the early Dream Theater stuff, I still love that. The later stuff, not as much. Sometimes depends on the album, but yeah, like he's always been an enormous like influence on me. And the guitar player from this band, Martyr, they're a Canadian like tech death band. Dan Mongrain, he's always been like awesome because, he's just. I remember seeing them live. They played in the U.S. once, I think, and it was at the Prague Power Fest. No, it wasn't that. It was like some weird festival. No, it was they opened for Atheist in 2007, and I saw that live, and I had no idea what Martyr was, and I saw them play. I was like, like overwhelmed, like to tears almost, where he's like, this is so good. And then ever since then, it's like I've always thought that dude was a monster player and wanted to be like him. Yeah, it's but I mean, all the bands I like Soilwork, Peter Witchers, I've always thought he's a great guitar player. The Doc and Dallas from God Forbid, always thought those dudes were cool because they're brothers, and then me and my brother were playing guitar in a band as brothers, so it was like you have brother idols. Same thing with Arch Enemy, Mike and Chris Amat, like brother idols, very important. I think I've always liked brother bands. At the Gates, you got the twins in that band, so yeah, all the brother guitarists were always just sick. Not for their guitar playing skills, but just
early Deicide.
Yeah, exactly right. So it's like having all those like brothers like. And it wasn't like a playing influence, just kind of like a camaraderie influence, which I think is cool too. When you get influenced by hangs and like camaraderie of people, So.
Yeah, and I mean that's got to be a good feeling too, knowing that your brother's like kind of on the same team as you, and you guys are both in the same mindset of like, I guess, musicality and what you guys want to play.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I feel like most siblings growing up usually are kind of combative. I know I am with mine, at the very least. But that's my own subjective.
Yeah, Alex and I've always been super close, which is kind of weird. But so a lot of siblings I feel like aren't like that. I hear some people talk with their brother. I'm like, dude, why aren't you playing in a band with your brother? Like, what's wrong with you? That's like sick, Like you guys are like, you live in different states, like playing a band together. What are you doing,
Hey,
So
you guys really love each other.
Yeah. Like this dude I work with, he's got 4 kids. I'm like, dude, you got a sick band right there. Like, why aren't your kids playing in a band? Like, I don't know. So, because I think, if you grow up with someone, like, if that closeness is there, it should be. If you have that, it's like super easy to like set a foundation for what you want with music and stuff. So.
Yeah, especially having like that, like the same page, like I mentioned, the same page, like creatively. Obviously your brother's going to be on your team, but it seems like the rest of you guys too have a really good camaraderie as well, and you all work really well together. Just from like talking to you, just kind of this it's openness right now. Yeah, the dynamic of this band is not to talk bad about any other bands I've been in, because they've all been good and bad in their own ways, but yeah, the 5 of us like get along really well, and it's been fun. Awesome. Yeah, it's
this
always
is like,
fun. Yeah,
we've had a lot of different guys come in and out of this band. But like this lineup that we have now is like, I could confidently say it's like the best we've ever had.
It's the most fun. It's crazy that the effect that fun will have on, because like you think about it otherwise, and it's like, what is a band? It's like 5 dudes that like are destined to smell really bad, and you're
make no money.
Make no money. Like all the things that you hear, and it's just like, of course it's gonna suck at times, but when like the group is good and you have fun, it's just like, oh, this is the shit.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine going on a tour with like 4 dudes that you're okay with, and it's like you're not laughing and having fun. Like, if it wasn't for that, it's like, dude, I'll get a real job and make money and like live and sleep in a bed. It's like
we drove on. We did 2 shorter little West Coast tours last summer, and the first date on the first one was in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
It was in Denver, and it was like, it's a 10-hour drive, maybe a little bit more.
That was like 15,
stops.
I think, from Chicago to Denver.
Yeah, that's a long drive.
You're right. I'm thinking of Springfield. 15 hours. But it was great. It was a great 15 hours. It was just screaming the entire ride.
Yeah, it was fun, man.
Great.
Yeah,
I drove a lot of that drive too. That first one.
Yeah, it's just
the
fun.
36-hour drive home. That was the shit, man.
Yeah, because we came back. Both the tours we did last summer were ended in California, and we just drove 30 hours back home 2 days.
Yeah, it's like 30.
And it's
my god!
It was most people would probably like be like, "This sucks," and it's like it wasn't like obviously like the most fun because you're tired and you want to go home.
But it was the most fun.
But it's like it's not like torture or anything at all. It is a lot of fun. So
that was the best.
I agree. That's kind of one of the things I miss the most is like, yes, on one hand, those drives fucking suck and you're just seeing gas stations and roads and nothing that interesting. But I guess at the end of the day, you're not at home. You're not at a shitty job.
Yeah. Freedom.
It's kind of nice,
Oh, yeah. And it's definitely interesting when you're in a car all day or a vehicle all day with your friends, because it's like, you know, you get out for the occasional gas station trip and it's like, holy shit, it's already like 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Like, what happened? It feels like you're in like a time capsule. And it's like, what
it's cool.
happened with the day?
I love it.
It is.
In between that, you got to find things to entertain each other. Like, one thing we always used to do is play this game called Your Team. You guys know that game?
I don't. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, please explain.
Oh man, I might have to cut this out because it's not very PC.
That's okay. No, we'll tell you all. No, we won't tell you.
Pretty much, you want to find whatever gas station or wherever you stop, you want to find the most fucked up looking person or just fucked up person at that place, and then you go, your team. And then that person's on your team.
Dude, that's sick, dude.
That's a great
That's
game.
a great game. Yeah.
But it doesn't mean anything. It's just like they're on your team.
We just
You got there.
Yeah, dude.
You got to have these teams, and then one day they're gonna have a war with the teams and all those people.
How do you keep track of the people though? Like, how do you remember?
Well, that's the hard part. You never really can truly keep track.
So it's like an ever-going game. Like,
do you ever take pictures of the people? You ever go walk right up to their face and be like, "Hey man, can I take a picture of you for this game?"
You're my team.
Your team. You're on this guy's team now. We get a picture of your fucking face so I can remember it.
If technology was as prevalent back then as it is now, I think some of us probably would have had the balls to try and do that shit. Not so much now.
Yeah.
Not so much now.
Now someone film me a back. I'm
Sandwich
filming you
punch.
back.
That's another good one.
What is that one?
Oh man, if you're out eating somewhere and somebody gets up to the bathroom and they leave their sandwich sitting open, you have full rights to punch it.
Oh, that's mean. I wouldn't.
But they have to agree to the game. If they don't agree to it before like everybody sits down, then
Okay,
no punching.
Nice.
That's fair.
Yeah, that's very fair.
Yeah. But it's
if somebody like
stuff
with my
with
food,
boredom.
like
Yeah, I would never do that to you.
Tour too. Oh man, that's
Oh, I know, because then you're out fucking.
man. Yeah, you're done. You gotta eat that fucking smush sandwich.
Yeah, we
Fuck
sing.
that shit, man.
We sing a lot of songs on the road. We just
Yeah,
kind of make
lots
up.
of made up
songs.
lots
Yeah,
of
we do that.
screaming,
Yeah, it's always
lots of
fun.
piss
Very
jugs.
Yeah.
me and our bass player Alex, like, we'll do some of the later drives, and we like to listen to creepypastas. If you're familiar with what that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, we listen to a lot of those, like on YouTube. Like, I'll search some and I'll be like, whoa, because it's like fucked up enough to where you're driving in like backwoods, whatever state you're in. And it's like, oh wow, this is like, it'll fuck you up if you're driving and there's like nobody else on the highway.
Yeah, it's cool.
Like
Yeah.
I did on the last tour we did, I drove the night, like the overnight shift, back home to Chicago. And I don't remember, we were in like Nebraska or something, or some
Damn.
barren state, and that you're in for a really long time and you don't see anything except like really weird lights, like thousands of feet in the distance, and it's just like, oh man. Like, we listened to, I'm trying to remember the one we listened to on that tour.
It was the one about like
It was Caledon 58, I think, or 48.
The kid who like wakes up and like there's a person at his house and he's like under the house. He finds like shit under the
Who are you talking about?
the one where
Yeah, we listened
he,
to that
like,
one.
finds a bunch of like pictures under his house, and then he's like, "Oh my god, there's
Oh
somebody here."
yeah,
There's
that's like that's Pen Pal. That one's
Yeah, that one's
fucked,
good.
dude.
That's a good one.
We did listen to that, and we also listened to this one. It's about like a local. It's about like, it takes place in Canada, and it's about like a local access channel kids show that's really fucked up, and it's that was really
That
good
was
too. Yeah, that's
Oh, I think they made that into a TV show.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, it's like they watch the show and then they get hypnotized and then the kids end up like killing each other.
No, this one was a little different. It was kind of like,
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. I know that one. This one's different though. It's about like a guy that runs like this kids show, and or a channel, and he does a couple different kids shows, and he ends up like luring these kids into his basement, and then he like kills them with poison and shit. Dude, it's like really fucked up. I got to figure out what it's called. It's called Caledon something. I'm gonna look it up right now. It's really fucked, dude.
Or whatever. He's like a British kid.
Yeah.
Caledon.
Dude, that's the thing is like people don't realize like how much honest to God, how much like I guess energy it takes to keep yourself entertained on the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it would seem like it'd be easy, but man, it's really not.
No,
like,
it's not.
especially on long drives.
You dig into the depths for sure. This, by the way, it's called Caledon Local 21.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
that's the name of the creepypasta if anybody is interested. But yeah, it is hard to, I mean, I feel like for us, we're usually pretty good about stuff like
Yeah, everybody has different
entertaining.
levels too.
Yeah.
Like some people dip out earlier and then they come back in.
The dynamic of people. Yeah.
I never dip out. I'm ready to fucking go, man.
You dip out, man.
Yeah, you dip out sometimes.
No, I
yeah,
don't.
you do.
No, I don't.
I'm a consistent. Me and the other guitar player, Jace, we're the straight men. We kind of like consistent between like 4 and 6 or 7 or something, you know?
Yeah, when did I dip out? What are you guys talking about?
Colorado Springs, man.
Yeah, Colorado Springs.
Oh, I was having a bad day.
yeah, exactly. You dipped out.
Well, that's a situation we got there.
I don't know. It's everybody's got a different dynamic that kind of all works together, and I mean, yeah, there is. I mean, if you're in a van with 4 other dudes all day, and you guys are around each other all day, there's definitely times where it's like you might need some alone time. Like sometimes I'll go and take my walks, and I'll. It's a good time to decompress by yourself. Yeah, to the back of the van. I'll walk. Like I walked around when we played Santa Cruz. I explored Santa Cruz a little bit by myself, and that was really cool.
Yeah, it's fun.
Same with San Francisco, except we weren't in a good area and we got robbed. And
oh shit! What part were you in?
What venue
we
did
played at the Brick and Mortar.
We were by what's the name of that neighborhood? The Mission.
The Tenderloin.
Yeah. We were by the tent.
Yeah, that's the bad part of town for sure.
We were walking because there's like a lot of really good restaurants around there, and we were walking. The guitarist Jason and I to get food from this place called Mission Chinese, and there was like dude like tying up and like And I'm not trying to talk down about San Francisco. I love the restaurants there, but man,
it's the home of Full House, dude.
Is it?
Yeah, that's where they've. It's where Full House took place, man.
Yeah, I'll talk down in San Francisco because I'm the one who got robbed.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, so everyone else left their shit where we were staying, and I'm the one who brought it with me. So I left my bags in the back of the van, and someone saw it and smashed the window and grabbed them. And it's like, well, my fault for doing that, but also like you shouldn't steal my shit. But at least I had a car bomb shirt, and I had left that on there because I stood against this wall with paint on it, and I got paint all over the car bomb shirt, so I swapped shirts, which was good that I brought my shirts with me because I would have had paint on my shirt for the show. But the dude took the shirt and dropped it like a couple feet away from where it was, so I got that back, thankfully.
Yeah.
Because I've been really bummed if he stole my car bomb shirt, but... Yeah, dude, that sucks.
Man.
But I said,
that's
I'm 6'6" and I'm blind, pretty much. So like, this dude got prescription glasses he can't wear, all these 2XL shirts he can't wear. Cool, dude. Have fun with your prescription sunglasses, jackass.
Maybe he was.
I had the same vision as me.
Yeah, everything.
Or a 2X.
Yeah, but it was cool in a sense that we learned a lesson early on about what not to do. So the second tour we did, we were super safe, and going forward, I can only imagine we'll be even more safe with the way we handle shit and all that. So, good learning experience, I guess. But
that's worst case scenario, man. I hate hearing about that when bands get robbed or wrecks, any of that kind of stuff, because it's a dent in your wallet and your safety, and that is so hard to come back from.
Yeah.
Financially, and even like from a morale standpoint, like I bet that was kind of hard for a little while to be like, fuck, man, all my stuff got stolen.
Yeah, it was like that night was a little weird, but we made jokes with it. And like by the next morning, I felt okay with stuff. It wasn't the end.
That's good.
We had to swap vans, so we got a smaller van. So like we were like cramped with some shit on the way home, and then like Adrian had his cooler next to me and just spilled all this like weird water that smelled funny. So like I didn't have any extra pants, so I had just the pants I had, and they just smelled like shit.
Yeah,
so that was fun.
Oh.
It's like if you make a joke out of it, it's like funny.
And Alex, who's the bass player who has the lowest IQ in the band, got a rotisserie chicken from Walmart.
Oh, I forgot.
Because there was a long drive home, and he left it on like
in the dash of the van because he thought that would be like.
Yeah, cool. I'll eat it later.
Yeah, and he ate it later. He got fucking food poisoning.
Oh.
Yeah, it literally happened like a full day after we got back. It like hit him.
Yeah, but he would sit on the dashboard in the hot sun in August for like 12 hours. So
yeah, not a good move. It's definitely not good food to buy and just pick at all day too.
No.
Like, come on.
Nope.
Yeah, he definitely
you could get like a tapeworm doing that shit.
IQ, yeah, for sure, has the lowest IQ.
I like him. He's sick. Me and him actually, we work together. Me and Alex, so we see each other like every day, which is fun. I didn't mean that in a negative way. He's cool. But
sorry to ramble.
Yeah, man. Oh God, San Francisco. I used to live in that area, and I knew pretty much what part of town you were talking about when you mentioned it. I was like, oh yeah, That place is nothing good ever happens there.
Yeah, you know what?
scary.
Even on the day sheet, it did say like, "Don't leave anything in your van like visible."
Yeah.
I guess we just kind of overlooked it, but
at least it was no gears. Guitars were safe, amps were safe. It was just closed.
yeah, all of our gear
My
was still
Game
in the
Boy,
van, yeah.
stupid shit that is.
What's funny
replaceable.
was that
So,
show was like one of the best of that run too. Like we
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice.
We sounded
we were
great.
the tightest that night. That's what always happens whenever like the draw isn't the best. That's when you're like the tightest. But also, after the show is over, the bartender like said, "Don't worry about your tab."
Yeah, she caught my
which was very
Bud Lights,
nice.
man.
Yeah,
that was sick of
very
her.
kind.
So that was
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So everyone's pretty, and then like dudes, the other bands we play with gave me a shirt and stuff, and so
Yeah.
everyone was cool about it, and it was it is what it is, and if you live and learn. So.
Yep.
yeah. Thankfully, that was like towards the end of the run, so like
Yeah.
Yeah.
we had one show after that, and then that
Wow,
was
it's not too bad at all.
yeah.
We taped it up with cardboard. Not to. No, I don't mean to take up the whole podcast with the broken in van talk.
No, we're good.
It was a fun time. We taped
It actually was, yeah.
We taped up the window with cardboard, and then it like blew off after like it was fluttering so loud, and it was, even though it was like August, it was freezing driving on the expressway at night, and then that window was wide open. I was in the
Yeah.
back, bundled up in my.
It was
blanket.
cold, dude. It was
Yeah.
freezing.
We
that
thought the
night.
cardboard would be better than a plastic bag that'd be like in the wind. So we thought the cardboard would like stay better, but it just blew off, and then it was just as bad.
Right
So
the fuck off.
yeah,
Yeah, it was cool. It's really cool.
Yeah, not a smart move, but
Yeah.
shit happens.
yep.
We made it work.
Oh man, I'm just like envisioning that in my head, and I'm like, yeah, that'd be annoying as fuck. Who's gonna be sleeping that night? Nobody.
Well, thankfully we had a place to go, and we ended up getting it swapped out that day before the show. It was a very
Yeah, I got up really early to call a bunch of enterprises to see if we get another van.
Yeah, he was walking outside barefoot. I remember.
Yeah,
'cause
I was,
like,
yeah.
"Fuck,
It was
you're gonna
cool.
get glass in your feet." But then I was like, "Oh wait, we're not in Chicago anymore."
yeah.
Broken.
But like, yeah, I woke up really early to do that, and it was like 2 or 3 hours of calling. And I come back and I'm like, all right, let's go get the van. Everyone else is still like fucking asleep,
Yeah,
and
I
like
was
no one's ready.
sleeping.
I'm like,
Adrian,
I've been up for like 3 hours calling places. You motherfuckers coming ready to
Well,
go.
we had that planned out,
But Adrian was
because
ready,
Adrian
but-
said he was gonna go with you, and that we were all gonna. We all told you we were gonna sleep. Not that that's justifying it by any means, but
Whatever, man. It's all
Yeah.
right. I got it. I figured it out. I handled it.
and oh
Yeah,
boy,
he
did I
handled it
sleep
real
good.
That was fun. I have a. All right, you know what? We can talk about it after. I don't want to.
No, we're all good. All right, let's get off our tangent here. Let's go back to, I guess, the beginning of the band. Let's hear about some of the history of the band. How did the band start? Member changes, lineup changes, kind of leading up to this first full-length record now.
All you.
Whoever wants to start it off, or you guys can go between each other. It's all good.
That'll be me. Okay, so we launched Warforged. I say launched because Jason and I have been playing together since I think 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we launched Warforged in August of 2012, right after I had left Enfold, and we put out a single, and we were trying to be like what we thought was tech death, but I think listening back at it now, it's more like, I don't know, what do you call it? Like Black Dahlia type shit, like that style of riffage.
Yeah, more of a deathcore, death metal thing versus like a super duper tech death. I think.
Yeah. But we
Okay.
really wanted to be tech death because like the Faceless was like the big thing back then. Like they were at their
Yeah.
peak with autotheism, and yeah, it was just weird because we kept going through member changes, be it guitars or I think we went through one bassist change. Jason was drummer, I was vocalist, and then like guitar changes for forever, and it was just hard trying to land on like a sound, especially because like when you're trying to play tech death, not only do you have to have a guitarist who has like the knowledge of like writing that style because it's obviously very intricate,
Yeah.
but also the skill and the gear, which is hard to come by because Chicago isn't really like, we're not, at least I don't think it's like a tech death city.
No, definitely not.
It's more like just a straight like post rock, post metal, like I think like Russian circles, like that type of shit.
Yeah, that's they're from Chicago, right?
Yeah.
So
I think
it's
like
more of that.
beer and jean jackets, and like concrete floors, Kumas. I think
Doc
that.
Martens.
Yeah. What? What are those? Are those shoes?
Boots.
Oh, I didn't know. I'm sorry. But yeah, so it was hard to land on a sound. So I just kind of started writing everything, and then moving forward, we eventually landed Alex. Actually, we landed Alex right before Essence came out, so probably 2013. He started playing bass for us.
Yeah, he's in the music video, but he's not. He didn't record the parts on that EP.
Correct. And we're to specify this for the music video for Essence of the Land, which came out January 1st, 2014. And Paul was playing guitar, and Rich was playing guitar at the time. I don't think that were there any other in between people. I'm sorry, I'm having a brain fart.
Between Rich and
it was
Jace.
Jace replaced
Rich. Yep.
And then you replaced Paul.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it went.
Is that right?
You're right. Yeah.
There you go. There you have it.
So that's a lot of member changes over the years, but here you are, 2019.
Yeah.
You have a solidified lineup.
Yes.
What kind of kept you going through all those years to get to where you're at now to want to keep doing this? Because I bet at times it had to be really hard and probably disheartening to be like, why the fuck am I doing this, you know?
I feel like I didn't question why I was doing it. It was more like I want to get past this period. Because like every time you lose a member and you gain a new one, you have to learn how to communicate with them as like a dude.
Mm-hmm.
You have to learn their capabilities as a musician, and you have to learn how to like jive with them as a musician as well, like playing wise, because everybody just like everybody handles this stuff differently. So yeah, when you go through a member change, it's just like, it's like having a new girlfriend, you know. You have to learn everything.
We've never had like two. We've probably, I mean, if we're talking about guitars, we've never had two guitar players that have ever played exactly the same way.
Yeah, no.
Everybody we've had in this band has like a different style to it, and like,
oh, sorry, man.
Yeah, go for it.
I was just gonna say, Paul and Rich were definitely like very like opposite. I think because like Paul was like he loves Alan Holdsworth and like Mars Volta and Dillinger a lot. Queens of the Stone Age, and then Rich likes like DSBM, like black metal shit.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
like to a T. So
stuff like Agalloch and more atmospheric music, and so he's a very effects-based guitarist. And then, it's definitely been. I mean, for our member changes, like it's been. Luckily, everything has been for the better since. Like I've known Alex and Max for years, probably since I was in high school, from my old bands, playing shows with their old bands and seeing them at shows. Like, so
nice.
I kind of already knew those dudes. So when Alex came and joined the band, like on bass, it was just kind of like, we basically accepted him because we're like, oh, he's a sick dude. Like, he could do it. And then he was in our band, and he's been in our band ever since. And when it came to Max joining, we already knew how to communicate with him as a dude because we were all friends. Like, I mean, we had known Max for years by then, and his style of like chunky ass rhythm hand playing is like it's sick. It's just like he kills it at what he does. And Jace is also a great player. And
he's a great player.
Jace is a very like precision player. Yeah, he never gives himself enough credit. Jace rips, and Max rips too. Like,
well, Jace and I make a good combo because I feel like I got that chunk, the fat guy chunk going, but Jace has that precision where, you know, I think we complement each other well, but we're also not dramatically different. I think.
Yeah.
But
Jace came from like a thrash background though, so Jace was in like thrash bands and some metalcore.
Oh wow.
He's got like his guitar chops are like.
Yeah, I'd recorded Jace's band. It was like 2008. I knew him from. I recorded his band in my parents' basement, and Alex and I had played shows with him back then. So it's kind of cool how it all works out, where we're back together, like playing in the same band now. But I remember back then, like 11 years ago, Jace was like phenomenal. It's like, dude, like I think him back then is probably better than me now. You know, like, it's like, dude, man, he kills it, and yeah,
He's a good player.
Yeah, when we had Jace in the band, when we were like, I remember because I approached Jace about joining us because I knew he was like a great guitar player. The band he was in at the time was kind of winding down, and I had reached out to him. I'm like, hey, because our band Warforged had played some shows with his older band called Burn the Remains, and I was like, Jace is like a great guitar player, and I met him at some parties and stuff, so I knew of him, and I remember, like, I came to practice once, and I was like, hey, guys, I got this dude, Jace, wants to try out. He's really interested. And Alex, so fucking nonchalant, was just like, oh, yeah, I know him. And I'm like, what? Like, how the fuck do you know him? Like, and then he told me everything, and I was like, oh, shit, I had no clue that, like...
I can imagine him saying that, too.
Yeah. He's like, oh, yeah, I know Jace. And I was like, oh, shit, that's, like, weird, but cool. And, yeah, I mean... And then Max, we all knew Max, obviously, so...
Yeah, Adrian photographed my wedding, so...
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got divorced and joined the band, so...
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
So you married the band?
Yeah.
Essentially,
Yeah.
yeah. What was cool, so I got divorced on that day, and I hit up my brother. I'm like, dude, what are you doing tonight? I want to hang out. And he was like, oh, I'm practicing. So I go to the practice, and that night, Paul quit. And essentially, it's like fucking timing. Awesome. I love that because it's just like very much a situation of like life gives you lemons, make some lemonade, you know?
And made some fucking
made some delicious lemonade with you guys, man.
Country Time? Is that a lemonade?
Yeah, it is,
Country Time. It's like the powder.
Fucking Country Time, man.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. But to answer your question about drive and stuff, I think it's like, I don't know, I like the ideas. Once you get an idea, it's just like you gotta bring it out, you know? Like, that's the thing that sucks about ideas is like, at least for me, like I have so many of them that I get like
get paralyzed by like what to do with
really
them.
Pompous.
Oh, I feel it.
Say, but like I get so many ideas that I get really mad at myself because I can't move quick enough to execute all of them. Like, oh man, this morning I had some real good ideas, but I don't want to. We don't have to go down that road.
It's like, that's what I describe myself when I'm like high. When I get really fucking high, I think of all this sick shit to say and do, and then I'm like, my mouth can't keep up with what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah. It is the best.
Yeah, but yeah.
I think it's good having that perseverance and drive, man, because I feel like most bands, I don't know, they would have either given up or not tried hard enough, you know, because of, especially with how the music industry's evolved now, like you're not going to get the same, I guess, level of popularity right off the bat. You know, you really do have to work hard at the local scene and then, you know, getting up to whatever is next after that. And you really have to concentrate on your music and your songwriting and all these different aspects. And having lineup changes in the midst of all that is fucking hard, like you were saying. Like, it's insane that, I guess for lack of a better word, you know, giving up is easier, you know, in some respects for a lot of bands.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But I mean, you guys have made it through, and it looks like, you know, I've only heard the one song, but I know I'm going to get to hear the record eventually. Woo. Let's get to that part. Like, where you guys finally were like, all right, let's write this record. Like, where were you guys at creatively for this?
I think I remember the night that I was writing the first song We've Been Here Before. It was probably about 4 months after Essence came out. I think Essence was finished writing in like fall of 2013.
It was written for a while.
Yeah,
before it came out.
But it took me a while to do Tainted Heart. I remember that was like a last minute, like, oh, it would be cool if we do like a clean ending. But then like I took a lot of time off from writing because I wanted to get like a fresh head and like listen to a lot of new music. So what I would do is like I would set my alarm like an hour early from when I would normally wake up, because when you wake up you have like a fresh head, and at least for me, I'm the most motivated right like as soon as my eyes open I'm like, I gotta go. So I would leave my keyboard on, and I would literally roll out of bed onto my computer chair and just start like playing shit to see.
Oh, nice.
Because the ideas that come out at that time of day, at least for me, are way different. They're different than the ideas at other times of the day. And I remember I was in my room watching the movie Martyrs and listening to Clutching Revulsion off of Ulcerate's album. Why am I fucking blanking on it? What album is
Vermis?
that? Vermis, yeah, Vermis. I was like, damn, this is like sick. Not to say that like, Martyrs is an alright movie, but like, I don't know. That's what I happen to be doing. I just remember thinking like, oh, it'd be really cool if like the album continues out of the EP musically. And although it doesn't really work if you put them in a playlist because there's a bit of empty space at the end of Tainted Heart. But if you line up Tainted Heart with We've Been Here Before, you could play the beginning of the EP through the end of the album, and it all plays as like one giant.
Oh, nice.
Music. Yeah. At least that's okay. So that's where I was for that song. At least, yeah.
So it pretty much started around like 2013 then, like as far as like writing for this, or
no, that
at least the first song.
That one was actually like probably March or April of 2014.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a little bit after. Yeah.
Yeah, because you kind of wrote the songs in order, right?
Yeah, they're all written in. No. Voice was. I think Voice was written before We've Been Here Before, and then from then on, there were certain like riffs and certain passages that were like one-off ideas from earlier on.
Yeah.
But for the most part, like everything was written in order.
Yeah, because I remember when I joined the band, everything up through Eat Them While They Sleep was done.
Yeah.
And then I remember hearing Willow and then Old Friend and then Color, and it was like they kind of came in order for me. So
Yeah. And I mean, we like, at least for those first, like the first half of that record, I mean, we had always been, like, Adrian was always writing ideas throughout the member changes and whatnot. Like, that never, I would say that never really hindered the writing process or, like, the idea of, like, creating the record.
No, it definitely changed it, though, because, like, when, before, like, Essence, we had this guitarist, his name was Christian, and he was very, very, very talented player, and his style was more in the, like, I don't know, what do you call bands like Christian? When we always say Christian bands,
like almost melodic technical bands.
Yeah,
that makes sense. Technical death metal mixed with like metalcore was like his bag.
Sumatra, you ever hear that band? They were like a Russian band. They were like YouTube.
Yeah, I've heard of them. I don't know if I've ever listened to them though.
He was a very melodic player. But
okay.
He was very much into playing like fast stuff though. And then when Rich joined, Rich is like very much, you know, Doom and DSBM, so it's more like, you know, slow, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
More chord-based guitar work. And I can't remember around what time, but when the song Voice was written, which is actually the next, I don't know when this is coming out, but that's going to be the next single that we put out. I hope that's okay to say.
Breach of confidentiality.
Yeah, whatever.
I mean,
yeah,
we're probably going to put this out closer to around the album release time, just so that way.
So as you've heard Voice already.
Yeah, as you've heard Voice already. That song is probably written. I think that one was written in like December of 2013 or January 2014. And the whole point of that song was like, I was kind of a little fed up with trying to do the whole tech death thing, because it's not our like thing. We were never really that good at it, and for live performance, I mean, like I said, Chicago bands it's mostly revolving around like post stuff, you know. Like
atmospheric.
Outrun is a good example of that. That's a band that like sounds good live. They just sound good live. And sometimes like you go to see tech death bands and it's really, really easy for shit to just get buried and for it to be a wall of sound. And it sucks because like there's so much effort put into writing and recording that shit to make it sound good, but then trying to do it live is such a it's just an uphill battle, you know. So Voice came around. I was like, you know, I want to try to write for the first time. I want to try to write a song that's like meant for the live show. You know, it's meant to like be sound. It's meant to sound good in like a room, big or small, just really loud amps, just like punch in the face. You know. pissed shit.
So you're kind of almost thinking on a third dimensional level with that song, as far as like not just on a record, but playing it live, people hearing it headphones, like all the different listening experiences you can get with all the layers of the song.
Correct. And I wish that I had that mindset for other songs as well, because like again, it's hard trying to translate this style live often, you know, especially like when you want to get as intricate as some of these songs are in terms of like layering of textures and instruments. Like there's just no way around doing some of these songs without a backing track, which I mean, I'm not going to say I don't like having the backing track, because, you know, Jason plays to a click live, and that helps us all lock in, and that's great, and I'm sure that he's become a better player off of that. And
I love it, yeah.
Yeah, it's nice, and it's like, you know, it looks professional and everything. You get the rack, and like it's
a bunch of lights and
yeah. You have like everything's locked in,
very streamlined, and
but at the same time, it's just like it's a lot of fucking work to get something to sound only a little bit better, you know.
And you could just all put your shit in the floor and play versus like all this like little stuff you gotta work out.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's not to say that like it always sounds bad. That not at all. Like there's plenty of like techie bands that sound fucking awesome live, and like obviously Obscura, like fucking King.
Yeah,
they sound so insane live. Like Arcspire, I was really surprised at how fucking woo.
Yeah,
that
shit
are
sounds
ungodly good at guitar.
Yeah.
Sounds so good live.
Yeah.
Wow. But for us, we were just never good at it. So yeah, we wanted to try something a little different, something that's more with our strengths.
Well, and since Adrian writes the stuff on a keyboard, you know, not I'm not talking down to him anyway, but it's just it's
weird.
It's hard to play in a guitar, and it's like but it's also challenging in a good way, because it's like you're thinking about guitar the way a keyboardist would, and you're playing chords you would never think of. And now when I pick up a guitar, I'm gonna try to write something that sounds like Warforged or play like Warforged. It's like I'm not thinking about scales like I normally do. I just kind of think about guitar as like this. It's really weird, and I can't quite explain it, but I think it makes it a little more challenging to pull the stuff off live when you're kind of playing keyboard parts on a guitar. But not to say that they're like the same, but it's it makes it interesting, and I think that's part of what makes the band sound so cool, is that you've got someone with a different approach to music writing than two dudes playing guitar, you know.
Yeah, that's not something you hear very often at all. Like, so
super uncommon.
Dragon Force.
Yeah. Well,
I think their keyboardist writes a bunch of their songs.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know.
And Inhuman Rampage, I fucking love that album. That's it.
I think it does. I think
we're talking about like startings of like influences and shit. Fucking Inhuman Rampage. I love that album. Trail of Broken Hearts.
I think another thing is like when we were kind of making that transition to try and go for more of our sound, was like a lot of our peers at the time were doing the tech death thing and getting really like rising up from it, like a bit like bands like the Zenith Passage and Archaic and Animate Existence, all these bands that were on the West Coast. It's like they had the tech death thing locked in, and it's kind of like when you have so many bands of that style sounding that way, and like they're so good at it, it's just kind of like, well, you know, do we really want to be another one of those bands?
Yeah,
like,
I don't want to try to top any of those guys. They're all really good.
And it's like, exactly, they're great. So it's kind of like, what can we do that's different, you know? I think that's always been like the mantra, the underlying like idea of Warforged, is like write music that's different, something a little different.
Weird.
And I mean, I don't mean to sound pretentious saying that, and I realize that's a really hard thing to say when like every single style of music in the year of 2019 is completely oversaturated. Like, but I mean, it's something, you know, I could say that I think we've kind of achieved that goal, because we'll play like shows and people will be like, "Oh, you sound like if Emperor was mixed with Devin Townsend."
Yeah, every time we play, I get a different band we sound like.
What's that one? The one C band that you like? They're kind of like a metalcore band.
Chimera.
No, Candiria.
Candiria?
Candiria?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Somebody said Candiria, Car Bomb.
We get all kinds of weird shit.
Also, yeah, and I'm kind of hoping that it's like people who have different tastes can find something that they like, and that's why we always have people saying different shit. But I don't know. Who knows?
I mean, it's every metal fan. I feel like their favorite thing to do is like talk about what they like and like, oh, this reminds me of something I like, you know. So I used to kind of bug me when people would be like, oh, you sound like this, and I want them to be like, well, why don't you think we sound completely like original? And it's like, well, I get it, you know. I've been a metal fan too my whole, like, most of my life. And I know what it's like being that dude where it's like I would research metal bands and dive like headfirst into metal archives and discover all these bands. And it's exciting. And like, it's so cool to me when we play these shows and we see like, you know, kids from, you know, in high school or they're younger kids and they're like, oh, you know, they find a band like us and they think it's like sick. And I'm like, whoa, I remember finding bands that I thought was sick when I was your age.
It's a fucking awesome
feeling. It's kind of a weird to be on the other end of it, but it's really cool and extremely flattering and, you know.
But you have to be different with stuff, because if we sounded like another band, then it's like, it's already an uphill battle to make your band something. And if you sound like something else, then it's even harder. So
that's a really good way to put it. Yeah, it's because I always think about it in those terms that like no matter what, we're always fighting an uphill battle. The fact that it's like metal, and the fact that it's like, you know, we're just still new, we're still young in this shit. Like why make it harder on yourself by putting yourself in the same like barrel? Yeah,
if you list the two bands you sound like and everyone agrees with it, then chances are it's going to be a lot harder for you to make a career out of it, you know? Yeah. So.
Well, I think 2 points that you guys mentioned, one of them is you said that you're trying not to sound like all these other bands, and I think that's a good thing because you're being conscious of that fact instead of trying to just, like you said earlier, just ape off of a style or genre that's like blowing up or big right now, you know, going with that flow of everything in the genre. You made a conscious decision to not do that. And in doing that, you know, the other thing you mentioned is you kind of forged this unique sound of your own. And so the fact that people say that you sound like all these different bands means that you sound unique enough that they can't pin down that one thing that you sound like, you know?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And also another note on that, I always think of it like, I don't know, like it's cool to like emulate influences, but I think it's better just like, when you're learning, you know, obviously, like, learn other band songs, like, as a musician, like, so you could understand their songwriting and their thought process with, like, chords and riffs and all that shit. But then, like, when you're doing your own shit, like, it just, it, may I?
You're doing it, man.
Okay. Yeah, do what you want, man.
There's just so much fun to be had with like songwriting, you know. There's so much to be done. So like, I don't know, everything that we just set aside, like I would just be like bored if we were trying to do.
Well, yeah, there's so much fun to do. Why would you write like another band to a T when it's like, dude, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah, there's all these weird ideas to be brought into fruition. Yeah.
There's 12 notes.
No, I think that's...
Do whatever you want with them, man.
You're watching this, and then the album comes out, and then everybody's like, oh, this is the most generic thing I've ever heard. And then people hear this podcast, and we're like, oh, yeah, it's really unique.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fine line, you know, because one thing to one person will sound like the most generic shit in the world, and then to somebody else, it'll be like a game changer. So it's I mean, it's hard, man. There's so many opinions and different ears and different perceptions. It's not going to resonate with everybody.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely.
As an outsider, at one point when I saw this band before I joined it, I remember watching you guys play live before I joined, going, "This is amazing." And I remember that was like it wasn't like I was in the band, so I had a different thought on it. It was just like, whoa, this is like. I remember being like, "This sucks. I want to be in this band." So it's like, Yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be like, this is generic bullshit, because I remember watching it going like, fuck, this is like, I want to do this, and I can't, because I'm getting married, but now I'm here, so it's sick.
Now you're not married.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really rare when bands pop up like that really make you think or like feel something when you're listening to their music. The only band for me that I can think of off the top of my head recently, and I would love to hear your guys' opinions too, Imperial Triumphant.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
Man.
Yeah, it's good shit.
When I hear their stuff, I'm just like, all right, you really have to listen to this because it's so different from everything else out there. And they're I mean, it's hard to do. That's really hard to do. So the fact that they're able to do that in something that's so flooded, it's amazing. So
Yeah.
I hope that people take the same thing away from this, you know, like really listen to it, even though I haven't heard it myself yet. I think it's important to like really listen to the nuts and bolts and be kind of analytical about music too. Because I mean, you know, yeah, you can listen to it in the background and have fun with it, but like really trying to pick out the guitar parts, or, you know, like you said, written from a keyboard perspective, that'll be interesting to hear for me personally, like to really pick apart how that was kind of put together.
Yeah. For sure. Fuck, I had a thought.
I know I just ranted there.
No, it's all good.
It's all good. We've been ranting this whole time. Fuck.
It happens a lot. You know, I'm really passionate about music, so I think that I tend to get away from myself when I start talking about it.
Yeah, get too excited. You start like rambling, like, oh, what was I talking about?
Yeah.
Yep. It happens a whole lot.
I mean, that's another thing with Warforged too. Though, we're all a fan of like, I think music that stirs emotions, and it's something that I feel like it's in metal. It's a very fine line because some bands choose not to do things like that, or you know, and I don't know. I mean, I think I'm not going to say it because I'll sound super pretentious, but
say it.
I think that you know, music as an art form is one of the most purest form of expression. You know,
what a nerd!
Right? But it's like every form of art really is. I'm just saying that because I'm a musician, but you know, I think it's like if you could take away from something, you know, the beauty of like being in a metal band is like you could still do something like that while making like a record that metalheads will enjoy. And I think that I'm hoping that's something we've achieved here. You know, something where it's like you could listen to it on the surface and enjoy it as a metal record, but then you could listen to it, you know, and really dig deep into it and kind of see where everything sort of came from and like the emotions that you might feel listening to it. And I know, like, I mean, it is a concept record, and I won't go into some tangent on that, but you know, I kind of always used to be like, man, I hate it when bands would be like, well, it's up to your interpretation. But I think it's kind of just naturally like that no matter what it is. Like, of course, concept records are concept records for a reason, and they do have a concept that goes along with it. But, you know, no matter who you are, you're going to get whatever you get out of that music listening to it.
Yeah, you kind of need to have that, because if you take it some other way, you got to interpret it your own way, because if you try to do it the way the artist did, then it won't mean the same thing to you.
Exactly, yeah.
And I mean, even if it's taken a different way by somebody who listens to your music, I would assume that on your side, when somebody came up to you and was like, oh man, I love this song, it helped me get through this thing in my life.
Oh man.
Even though it has nothing to do with what the song's about, that's probably got to feel good for you guys, at least, you know?
Absolutely. Can I tell a small story that's not related to Warforged about that? Just
quick. Of course.
You could cut it out if it sucks.
No, man.
Okay. So when I was in Enfold, we were playing in I think it was in Virginia, and again, I was not on any album. I was on 2 songs, so I was not like the guy for that band. But I don't know if people really thought that I was like the old singer because I had the curly mustache, Justin, but I'm obviously not him. But people would come up to me and be like, "Oh man, I love." You know, I listened to this song and it helped me get through this and all that stuff, which was always cool, even though, like, I'm not going to take credit for that because that's their work. But there's this one dude in Virginia, and I swear, I wish I could see this guy again. He was such a... I mean, I have nothing bad to say. He was a shit, man. Yeah. He was, like, amped. He was, like... he was wearing I don't remember what shirt, but he had the sleeves cut off, so it was, like... fucking bicep. He was jacked. He was fucking ripped, and he came out and he was wasted. And he was just talking about how like listening to Artisan Rapture like helped him lose a lot of weight. And he was wasted and so happy and just like good energy. Oh man, that was great. And one of my Facebook default picture from that year was him and I like doing like
so that's that photo.
Muscle arms.
That's sick.
Yeah, that's that dude because he was like fucking wasted. I was like, hey man, let's take this pic. And we just both did muscle arms. But yeah, that's a great feeling, and you know, I hope to have that one day for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, it's weird. This isn't gonna come out probably until like April or May. Man, what is gonna change between now and then in the things that we're saying. Oh,
Probably a lot.
I mean, look.
change. Yeah, what? What if we all start hating each other? And
Yeah,
like,
I don't know, man.
oh, fuck you, man. I'm gonna give you you guys like fuck yous from the past. Alex, this is me. Fuck you.
I mean, already we got the new drummer announcement, you know, so there's that.
Ready to
Yeah,
go,
there's
man.
that. That's true. That's
No, I mean, it's honestly up to you guys when you want to release it. Like at the very earliest, it would be like at the beginning of April. So, I mean, it's whatever you guys want. Because I know a lot of times I get interviews and people on and they're like, oh, you can't release it until this day. And I'm like, shit.
Gotcha. I don't know if there's anything that like any reason why to wait or to rush either way. We'll talk to Rob about it.
Yeah.
The old powwow.
So as far as writing everything, Adrian, you pretty much write everything yourself, or like how does everybody's outside input come into that?
So I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've been having trouble answering this question without sounding pompous. But usually the way it goes is like I do everything Guitar Pro. Praise Guitar Pro 5.2.
Yeah.
Any of those 5.2 folk out of there?
Woo!
Shout out to you folks. Yeah, it's just like I have an idea for like a rhythm or a chord or an entire section or a structure of a song or anything like that, and I'll just kind of like either try to get my fingers to get that to come out on the piano, or I'll just go straight in Guitar Pro and start tabbing shit out, and just keep building on it and like moving shit around and reversing things and like changing instruments and that sort of stuff until it's like a song or a part or whatever. And then Jace and Max, well, I mean, everybody is like the filter of like, since I'm not a guitarist, and I think I've gotten better over the years at tabbing, but like in the early days, it would be like I would tab out an arpeggio and it would be on one string, shit like that. So I'd be like, hey, here's the song, you guys play this, and they're like, what? I guess it's fucking stupid, man. So pretty much like I'll write out a song in Guitar Pro, or everything that can be written on Guitar Pro, assuming that it's like in time. And I'll send it to the guys. They will fix anything that's like impossible or stupid, and we'll just have discussions over the next couple months on how to improve things and how to like rearrange guitars in a way that you could hear, like if there's a certain chord that you want to bring out a certain like pardon me, emotion out of, like you just kind of move stuff around between the two guitars. Because I was thinking about it today earlier today that like since I'm writing these sections on keys, I have my two hands, so it's like figuring out how to split up chords from being played with two hands to two different guitars and bass at that point, and keys. So it's, just spreading out everything, yeah.
I don't think that sounded really pompous, so I'll give you that. I mean, it just sounds like to me that you kind of lay out the rough draft, and then everybody kind of adds to the rest of the story in a literary sense, like for a metaphor.
Yeah, they like solidify it. Like I'll do like, if I'm like, I'm the pizza dough, Jason's the sauce, Max and Jason the cheese, and Alex is like the shaky cheese, like shit that's on
Parmesan.
the table. Yeah. I'm sorry I'm shitting on Alex so much. I just like busting his balls because he's not here.
Yeah,
bust
he's
his
definitely
balls.
the shaky cheese.
He's the
like
easiest one to
punch
bust the
you
balls
back.
of.
Yeah.
Due to his low IQ.
Oh man, you guys are just gonna have to let him listen to it and be like, "What the fuck?"
Oh, he
doesn't
will.
care.
Yeah.
We'll have a rebuttal episode. I'll just let him come on and talk shit about all you guys.
Oh,
That would
God.
be bad.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know
don't
if you'll
do
be able
that.
to air it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the easiest to shit on because nothing will offend him.
Yeah. No, he
You
doesn't
know,
get offended
so.
by anything. Yeah.
It's a good way to be, though. I'm kind of that way myself. Like, I'm not going to get offended by fucking anything, really.
Yeah.
But
hey, I'm so sorry. Can I take like a 15-second bathroom break?
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, me and Max will take the reins.
Yeah. So with you guys, as far as like your input musically, at least for this record, like what did you guys add when he brought you something? You're like, we should probably change this to make it sound, better from like your sensibility as like a songwriter or musician in your respective instrument.
I mean, as far as the songwriting goes, I think like for the most part, since it's Adrian's vision, I know we wanted to, kind of accompany that and not really change anything too drastically. I mean, the few things that I would say personally are just a lot of the drum parts. Like I would go in and rework them with some ideas, or me and him would get together and we'd come up with ideas as far as like what would sound cool as opposed to what he might have had in mind and what I had in mind. And at least from, my aspect of being the drummer, it was kind of like there was some leeway there to kind of, I kind of give it, my own flavor, I guess, so to speak, for a lot of the parts. But then once again, kind of like what Max was saying, Adrian will write some drum parts where it's like, wow, I would never think of this. And sometimes it would be like, this is really cool. Other times it would be like near impossible. And I'm like, oh, how do you do that? But
figuring hit all the cymbals at once.
Yeah, like 3 cymbal hits and like a snare. It's like, what? But, at the same time, like that, it makes you approach your instrument a little differently, and it's kind of like, oh, I didn't know I could do something like that, or I never would have thought of like a rhythm or a pattern like that. And then, you could take that and then build upon that itself and kind of, combine something like that with your own style or your own take on it. And there's definitely a few sections on the record where there's some of those moments where I was like, oh, fuck, this is a really cool idea. And then like you kind of add your own flair to it personally. Yeah. But that's where I would really say, at least for me, as far as like the contribution went, as far as like the music of it.
Okay. For me, it's more just kind of like talking with Jace to be like, okay, well, what makes sense? Where you take this note in this chord, I'll take this, and but the big part of it's just bringing it to life, because Guitar Pro is a great tool for writing, and it definitely helps you get the idea of what a song is going to sound like. But you can palm mute things 100 different ways in real life versus the one way in Guitar Pro. So the biggest thing is just kind of like, like making it shine and like turning it from 2D to 3D and just kind of like it explodes. And
that's a good way to say it.
As soon as I was saying that, I knew you were going to like say that. Wow. So this is for you, man. But yeah, it's just kind of like, just bring it all to life and just, like, because you play something a million different ways versus the way Guitar Pro iterates it. So it's cool. Yeah, but I mean, in terms of like writing ideas, it was pretty much all laid out by the time I had joined. Where,
nice.
Yeah, I didn't really contribute to the riffs, but that was okay, because it was kind of like, it wasn't like I was like joining, and be like, I don't like these riffs, I want to write them. It was like I joined because I liked it. So, and then the satisfaction for me is creating it with your friends and bringing it to life. So,
yeah.
So that's a good segue to what I was kind of curious about next, is that kind of proverbial next step of writing everything in Guitar Pro. And once you guys are together in the room, how much of it changes from those like kind of initial notes, like once you're kind of hearing everything pieced together in sound form for the first time?
It depends, because there were like in the way earlier I don't know, the first couple songs of the record, like those were still like where I was trying to figure out how to write this style. So like learning songs earlier in the record were a lot different than learning songs at the end of the record. Like I feel like by the time we got to Color, and again, whenever this comes out, I could talk about the style. It doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, go for it.
Color is more like death metal, melodic death metal.
Yeah,
something. Whatever that is, that's more like it's straightforward compared to like Voice, which is more like abstract, like avant-garde, weird, like noisy shit. So like by the time we got to that last song, it was just like, oh, okay, we got in the room, and like I feel like even though that one's hard for you guys to play, you guys picked it up quickly, because it's like straightforward, like riffs.
Yeah, structure-wise.
I mean, that
very
first
simple.
The first section of that song was written forever ago, and I had heard it about 1 billion times, so I had the ideas of what I wanted to play for that. But yeah, I mean, there's still some segments of that song that I think sound more aligned with the rest of the record too.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, like when we got into the room for like, I don't know, fucking Nightfall. Let's take that one because that one's really, there's a lot of notes in that song. Like, I feel like there was a lot of adjustments that needed to be made in terms of splitting up chords between the two guitarists, especially in like the middle of the song. That's, you guys will know what I'm talking about by the time this comes out. So yeah, when we get into the room, it's just like we try to make sure that everybody knows like the guitar pro first and foremost. We towards the end of the writing, we started bringing a laptop with and having Guitar Pro there, which is great. But yeah, we just try to know the songs as best as we can when we get into the room. Then when we get into the room, it's always a struggle starting, especially, I don't know, for me, because like I've heard the song 10,000 times on Guitar Pro, and Guitar Pro is perfect. Everything sounds. My Guitar Pro track, I'm very detailed with them. Like, I'll like adjust velocity of the drums and everything, and like every instrument is there, and there's volume swells, and I put all the bends and vibrato and all the good stuff in there on all the instruments. So then, no offense, I mean, I know a song isn't going to sound perfect when you get it into the practice space first. Whenever we're playing it, and it's just like, oh fuck, this sounds great, and then when a wrong note is hit, I'm just like, oh, you fucking. Oh. It's like infuriating, but I know it's like you get over it quickly once we start learning the song, but like it's hard, and I know this isn't, I don't think this is isolated to us. I think this is a band problem in general, that like when you start learning a new song, it's always like a struggle, but once you get over the hump, it's just like the shit. It's so cool. It's such a good feeling learning a new song when you guys get tight with it. Ooh, I can't wait for that again. Oh, for sure.
I mean, look, let's just knock on wood here. Think like 10 years down the road, when you played that song like 1 million times, it's just ingrained in your brain at that point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's a good moment.
So did you do pre-production work for this record, or were you like pretty much ready to go as far as like recording?
We did some pre-pro. So, obviously we had the Guitar Pros. We've been playing most of the songs for a while. By the time we started recording, but yeah, we just like
we demoed out every song here.
Yeah.
I got an electronic kit, so we did that and just simple stuff, so we could get an idea of what they sound like. But that took, because I joined the band like September 2016, and we were kind of done with pre-pro stuff in like April of 2017.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like we were working super hard, long hours on it, but it was just kind of like let's get this done, and then we had it ready to go for when we recorded the album, and Jason had those tracks, the scratch tracks and everything, so it was helpful. But
well, that like took off too when you joined, like right away.
Yeah, because I had all the shit ready to go at my house, so it was like, come by, let's do it.
Yeah, but it's cool.
So is that what you guys did? You recorded at Max's?
For pre-production, yeah, and then
okay.
We did the recording. Everything else was kind of like here and there. All the drums were done in 4 days at Bricktop Recording here in Chicago. Guitars, for the most part, were done here.
Yeah, I think they were tracked here or at Paul, our old guitar player. He tracked our guitar stuff and like the drums and everything for the most part. So so him and Jace would come to my place. We tracked there, but I think Jace and Paul did work on some stuff at Paul's place too. So
yeah, Alex did stuff here and at Paul's. I did stuff at the practice space and my apartment. Keys were done at my apartment. I think that's it. And then all the guest spots were like obviously from other places. Paul did Nate's guest spot, and he did Eddie's guest spot and Danny's. So all the Chicago people that are on the record, Paul recorded those. Yeah.
I think this is the one big benefit about technology nowadays is, you guys didn't have to spend a ton of money and a ton of time on like a real studio, and the record still will end up coming out sounding as good as anything else, because like the technology is so good now that you can just do it on your own time, in your own pace, in your own home.
It's the shit.
For sure.
It's
yeah,
great.
It helps a lot because, you have to pay for that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because I have this conversation. I've had it with a few different people, but it's like, not to keep going back to it, but look at a band like Metallica, who literally like has all the money in the world to create and write a record and basically try an infinite amount of ideas with full perfect studio gear. You know what I mean? There's the most recent example I could think of is Bring Me the Horizon. Like they wrote and recorded their whole, I think, record themselves at their home studio. Like, and they have so much gear and everything at their expense, and it's like, this day and age for a lot of metal bands, especially up and coming, that's hard. Like a lot of bands bust their ass to save money to like have 3 days to track like, a 4-song EP in the studio. And it's just kind of like, you have to have everything there. And like, you can't afford to lose time essentially,
Yeah.
It's just like, so funny how like, it's this day and age. It's like it's studio time. It's hard to afford, and like reasonably so. Like these engineers are charging a fair amount, but it's hard to come up with that money sometimes.
Well, that's when you have bands like Periphery and Tesseract that kind of like changed the game. I think with recording at home, where their first albums were done themselves, and they didn't have a book. They just learned it all, and they posted stuff on message boards 5 years earlier, like here's my demo, and people be like, oh, you got good tone, this is sick, and then it just blossomed to like a whole genre of people doing it in their home. And it's and that kind of inspired me to kind of get into that stuff too. And I didn't record anything, like I wasn't the engineer with this album or anything, but it's always been in the back of my mind where it's like, as a successful band now, you have to be a businessman, you have to be able to talk to people, network and shit, and like
be a maverick.
You have to be able to record now, and you also have to be able to play an instrument. And it's there's a lot of shit you have to do to make this work, and but yeah, being able to record your own stuff or be able to save money in that regard is like huge, because you can't afford shit,
Now, devil's advocate here, do you also think that's the reason everything is so flooded?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, it's and this isn't isolated to like music. It's the same thing that's going on in like the world of photo and video right now, and to an extent the culinary world as well. Like I'll talk about
interesting
photo video stuff. Like cameras are getting cheaper and nicer. Instagram, Facebook, like it's almost everybody has the capability to like put out quality stuff for those that are trying to do some sort of visual work, and because of that, there's a lot of stuff coming out, and obviously a large percentage of that is going to be bad, and that's not talking down towards people, but it's just like a lot of people are just starting out, or maybe they're bad, whatever.
Yeah, they might be bad,
happens,
but you have the ability to spend $300 on a nice camera or a audio interface, and you just plug in there and you download a plugin, or you just post online and you're done. It takes the cost of admission is so low now where it's really easy to do what you want and kind of put it out there. And there's a lot of good stuff and a lot of crap, but everyone can do it now, which is what's kind of cool. But yeah, it's definitely like there's so much stuff to find, and there's so much stuff to listen to now, and you can search YouTube and find hundreds of bands that you want to hear and hundreds you don't, because everyone can do it now. So.
Yeah, but then on top of that, also I think that because everybody can do it, it's at least for me, like it's easier to filter out like stuff that I don't like, because there's so much of it. It's just like, oh, I could just
not pay attention.
Yeah. To a degree, and I know that might not be the best attitude to have with like music, but like,
you could spend the whole rest of your life listening to a new band every day, and like
exactly.
still not hear it all and die, and you're like, oh, cool,
I guess let me rephrase that from the standpoint of a creator, be it a musician or a photographer or whatever. Like, it is easier to get your stuff out.
Yeah.
It takes a lot more effort to get noticed.
Yeah.
And to like maybe be liked or whatever. you know. And to a degree, it's also a lot. It's very discouraging to a creator. You know, being in the social media age where nonstop, if you're part of the community of your chosen, you know, art form, you're gonna see lots of people putting out stuff all the time. And
yeah,
at least for people like me, like I have a really bad habit of like going on social media and comparing myself to people. So it's like, it's really hard not to get down on yourself about your own shit because you're constantly bombarded with everybody else's shit, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a big problem with that when I first started this podcast, because like I noticed all these other metal podcasts popping up around mine, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, why are all these podcasts all of a sudden here right after I start mine? And I was like, you know what? It doesn't fucking matter. Like, I'm just gonna do my thing and not worry about them. And once I got in that mindset, I noticed like a big difference in everything. So I think that's, at least that's for me. I know trying to apply that to everything in life is not always going to work.
Yeah, for sure. You got to stay in your lane and like just keep your eyes on your own road.
For sure.
So how much time did it take to record everything in total? As far as like days? So, I mean, drums are 4 days, you said?
Yeah, drums were 4 days. Everything else was really sporadic because, you know, we all work full-time jobs, so it's pretty much like, hey, you got a couple hours this day, you got a couple hours that day. Drums were recorded 4 days in July, I think.
Yeah, July 2017.
Yeah, in 2017. Then we started recording guitars in, like, I think we started in August.
Yeah. But we didn't finish until, like, February of 2018.
Yeah. Vocals, same thing. Bass, same thing. Keys, same thing. Yeah, so it took quite a bit of time, which was really, really hard. Because obviously, because like you want it to be done, but also because like going back to Guitar Pro, you have your Guitar Pro, and that's perfection. It's beautiful. Everything's so spot on. There's no wrong notes ever. And then you start playing live, it's just like, oh, fuck yeah, this sounds so much better than the Guitar Pro. Real instruments, it has power and emotion and aggression and grit to it, and it's great. And then you record it, and it's just like, oh, shit, this is even better. And you keep taking steps up, but then, like, you get to a point where you get a version of a recording that's missing a bunch of shit. Like, once you record the real drums, like, when we recorded those drums, I would listen to just those drum tracks alone because it sounded better than the pre-production. And then when we got the guitars in it, I was just like, damn, dude, this is sick. And I would listen to that all the time, and then I would hate listening to everything before it. I'd be like, man, all this, why did I listen to this? Like, every single version of, like, recording, I would like hate the previous version so much. I like beat myself up about it. Like, why this song sounds like shit, and it's like missing 3 instruments.
Yeah, it's not done yet. You know, that's what. Yeah.
So everything's been pretty much done for about a year as far as like recording goes.
Yeah, we got
just about.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, masters we got in May I think last year. So we've just been getting everything in line for the release.
Yeah, it's definitely really hard to be sitting on something that's done for that long.
Yeah,
yeah, I can imagine.
I don't like that, but it's kind of the way it is, because it's like, I remember thinking, oh, it's done, like, let's just release it. It's like, well, we have to figure out how we're going to do that, and then you have to wait for the schedule of things, and it's just like, oh, that's right, there's, you know, it's more than just say it's out, you know.
Yeah.
Every step of the way, too, it's been like, oh, man, when we finish writing, everything's going to be up and moving quick from there.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, when we finish recording, oh, and we got the label stuff worked out, oh, we got the schedule. Now, actually,
then the video.
Now it's like, it's just the video.
Yeah, I mean, we're like there. It's finally
it's
there. It feels good, you know.
I'm fucking a disaster.
Well,
right
yeah, you got shit you got to worry about, but you know, I'm good.
It feels good, but it's also a nightmare at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, the amount of patience you must have, man. It sounds like it's been this whole 5-year-long process to get everything out, and now it's about to be here. I mean, once it hits, I bet that's got to be like a huge weight and relief off you to finally have it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking nuts, man.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Only took a couple of mental breakdowns to get here.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. A lot of traumatizing moments in everybody's lives. But that's kind of what's cool about the record, too, is that, like, I mean, I can't speak for everybody in the band, but I could speak for a lot of fucking people in the band that, like, we've all been through some shit, like, through the last 5 years personally, like, whether that be within the band or outside of the band. And it's kind of like, Adrian described it once, like, the record is almost kind of saying, like, goodbye to, like, the last
time in our life.
Yeah, like the last 5+ years in our, and it's like, yeah, it's a very strange feeling, and like, I don't know, you know, it is sad, and at the same time, it's like, all right, well, you know, hopefully that's leading to better opportunities for us as a band, and it's been a pretty good trajectory so far. Like, you know, as far as last year was our year, we kind of started touring, and then literally on our first tour, we got picked up by Continental Concerts with our agent Dan DeFonce, and you know, that was kind of like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, this is
cool.
crazy. And,
Yeah,
you
that was
know,
a shit.
on our second tour, we ended up deciding on signing with the Artisan Era, and we made that decision. And it's just been, I mean, really cool. I mean, when we signed like when we signed our contract for Continental Concerts, it was at a FedEx, and where were we? Denver.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, we literally went to a FedEx and had them print it out, and like we signed it and scanned it.
We gotta go.
Yeah, emailed. It was you know, it was kind of cool how it all came together. And when it came to like figuring out the label stuff, like we were in some talks with some other labels, and I'm not gonna, you know, throw any names, but at the end of the day, Artisan Era was like, when they approached us, and like seeing, after touring with Inferi and seeing how much they gave a shit about their band and how much of a tight ship they run in, just how honest those dudes are, Malcolm and Mike.
they're very transparent, which I love.
Yeah.
And that's super important because there's so many people trying to steal from you.
We've heard a lot of horror stories about bands on labels.
And it's just
Oh,
like,
man.
Malcolm and Mike are just straight up dudes, honest and good hardworking guys that I trust. You know, you gotta trust people.
They've literally said no to. They've never said no to anything that we've like done. Like, every single question I've had of them, they've been like, yep. Like, it's all a bunch of yeses, and it's just like, wow, this is fucking crazy. Like, for example, our pre-order packages, we weren't initially going to have those wall flags. It was just going to be shirts, and I was like, fuck, we need to have something else. So I messaged Malcolm, and I was like, yo, how about some wall flags? He's like, you got it. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like,
nice,
dude. Yeah. So, you know, just small things like that, even. It's really cool. And I think at the end of the day, we realized we made the right decision. And, I mean, it's just the Artisan Era as a label now has kind of become this new exciting record label that people are really attaching themselves to it, and it's really cool to see that. It's not only built like
Sick.
You know, a roster of really interesting and cool, unique bands, but like it's built its own. It's like it got its own metal fan base of it. Like,
Yeah.
I know I said of its own about 1 billion times, but the Artisan Era does have.
It feels like the Sumerian Records feeling from 2007, 2008 that I had.
Yeah,
You
same.
know, seeing that all that hype happening, it's just like, oh, cool. It's just like feels cool to be on the ground floor with that, and I think it's gonna be in the long run better for us than if we'd picked someone else. So
Yeah, I had never seen. I mean, I guess with Sumerian to an extent, but like, this is the first time in a while, I'll say, that I've seen bands like, or not bands, like people be excited about a label. That's really weird to me. Like, oh yeah, like people are stoked about the Artisan Era. Like, especially on they have this this Facebook page called the Artisan Era Society, and it's just like people.
Yeah, I got the podcast in on that group, so I interact every now and then.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, you can see how
it's crazy. It's so cool.
Like by the time we're recording this, that Equipoise record dropped on Friday, and like the amount of crazy feedback and it's a great album. Like the amount of feedback it's gotten in the sense of community there. It's like literally everybody's just posting pictures of their vinyls, their pre-order packages, and it's just like, oh shit, this is so cool. Like, you know, I love that shit, and I've always been a big fan of collecting music myself and like merch and, you know, whatever I could get my hands on. So it's so cool, like, you know, seeing this community based full of people like that, because that's honestly, those are the types of people that keep, you know, certain bands going. You know, it's kind of like we're a metal band, and not that like I don't think any band is in metal to make some money, but It's just cool to see like the music that we write and care about and put so much effort into and like basically base our lives around. It's cool to see that it goes towards the people that understand it and, not necessarily, maybe that's not the right word, but they want it. They want it, and they show the appreciation. I mean, the day our pre-orders launched, we sold like 3 of those like full all vinyl variation wall flag.
Damn.
I was like, someone bought that?
Yeah, and it's like
awesome.
crazy. Yeah,
dude.
Like,
fuck.
Yeah.
It's nuts that people
give us your name. We'll guest list you.
I mean, this is when we didn't even have a full song out. Like we had a teaser up for a few songs of the records, which is on YouTube. But I mean, if that was me, I would never pre-order a record without getting a full song. And it was like crazy to me how like people were willing to do that. It's really cool.
Yeah,
so
awesome.
It's very encouraging too. So
yeah, it is.
I mean, I think it speaks to the kind of dude Malcolm is too. He definitely gives a shit. Not just about like his band and everything. He gives a shit about music as a whole, and he wants to foster the scene in this sense of like camaraderie as opposed to like, differentiating and fracturing it,
For sure.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Malcolm knows what's sick in the metal community.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's what's even cooler. It's like half the like the reason I know the Artisan Era is because not only am I a fan of his bands, but like every single time he signs a band, I'm like, shit, I have to check it out. And usually it's fucking awesome.
Yep.
Like we got to play with our friends in the Odious Construct when we played Sacramento last year, and I love that band. And the EP they put out last year was like killer. So it's so cool to be like, oh shit, like we're on the same label.
Hey fellers.
Yeah. So, and it's a cool community to be a part of, and I think that's when we realized it's the the right move for us.
Yeah.
That's good. Yeah, because I've seen him and I've talked to him a few times, and he seems like he really just wants to make sure the bands get their due and get paid what they're supposed to get paid if they get paid anything. Like that's. Like you said, you don't see or hear about that anymore. Labels don't give a shit. They're just like, oh, what's going to give me a paycheck, not the band's a paycheck.
Yeah, I mean, what better way to run what better do to run a label than somebody who's in a band and knows how it goes firsthand?
Yeah,
yep.
Totally.
I mean, it's like, and I don't mean another point that I did want to bring up earlier that I just remembered was like, when you're signing to a label, especially a label that's like, either a newer label or an older label, if they have like a lot of established acts on it, especially if it's an older label, they're taking a risk signing a smaller band, and usually you're at the bottom of the barrel compared to like let's say you're on Nuclear Blast, for example. You get signed to that. You're a brand new band. Like, do you think they're going to push you as hard as Slayer? Do you think they're going to push you exactly? Or like Metal Blade, like that's just the way it works. It's like Black Dahlia, Amon Amarth, Cannibal Corpse. Are you going to get that kind of recognition right away? Most likely not. And it's kind of like that's when it's really a test to be like, shit, we have to make sure that we could break through to enough people to get that recognition. And the cool thing about the Artisan Era is that Malcolm, like, he vouches the bands that he and Mike sign are bands that they like. So the cool thing about that is that people respect their opinions, and people are like, oh shit, if they think it's sick, if it's on Artisan Era, I gotta have it, I gotta listen to it. Just like Hank, Max's dog, who just jumped on top of me. But it's true for sure though.
Yeah.
Like if you think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, man. It's cool to see that gaining momentum, like just from an outside perspective, because like you said, even since back in Sumerian, and I don't know, and like I guess my perspective on Sumerian's a little different, but yeah, you don't see that anymore. How often do you see guys repping like label shirts anymore? Like you don't like maybe a Metal Blade shirt every now and then,
or if it's like a local, like smaller label,
sure,
like.
Yeah, I never see that shit. Or if it's not a metal label, then I see it like Top Shelf Records or like something like that. Or what's the forget? There's another one similar to that. Like I see those label shirts, but they're not metal labels.
Artisan Era has that ability to be a label shirt label.
Yeah.
I'm kind of surprised they don't have any shirts. Yeah. I don't think they have any Artisan Era shirts.
I would wear one.
I would totally fucking wear one.
I would actually.
I'd wear any label shirt that I was on, honestly, but
But I don't know.
Just black.
There's a pride to it that I feel more so than.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
I feel
when
cool,
we decided
man.
to sign with them was kind of like it's cool to we feel like we're not like this little speck in this big ocean, you know.
Yeah.
Having that shirt would be like, you know,
It's
here I am.
You're a part of something.
Yeah,
it's
part of something.
validating. It's
Yeah.
very validating. Like from a petty level or not, it's just nice to like be able to say that, you know, we're on that team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool.
'Cause
It's
a
like
very reputable team.
I'd feel more confident wearing that than like wearing one of our own band's shirts. You know what I mean? Seeing those dudes.
Yeah.
I still like, because part of me is like, wow, that guy's got some balls to fucking be doing that. And like, I think it's
Malcolm
cool.
doing everything.
No, I'm just like
To
being
wear
a
your own
dude that wears
band
your own
shirt,
band
yeah.
shirt.
Oh yeah,
Like-
yeah. I can never do that.
You can only do that.
Hey,
if
that
you're, like,
used-
Swedish, man. Swedes do that, but Americans can't.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that used to be the norm. Excuse me, seeing bands like wear their own shirts on stage.
Like In Flames does that, but that's like it.
Still?
They did in like the 2000s, like early 2000s.
Oh, they
I think,
did?
Yeah.
Trivium did that a lot. That's who I think of.
Yeah.
They did it. I mean, it, like just a regular shirt, not like some special band uniform thing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, let's see here. We got like 2 months until the record comes out.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
What is something, I guess, besides getting it out that maybe each of you are like really proud of on this record that you either contributed to or just something that you know is going to happen with it? Like what's something you're finally just like, fuck yeah, I can't wait for this.
Oh man. You guys should go before me. 'Cause
Yeah.
I know it's a tough question. It puts you on the spot.
Yeah, I think for me, it's just the fact that it's an album that I was a part of that came out in a grand way, you know, because I've done stuff with other bands. There's always been like an EP, and it's like, well, just do this EP, then we'll get the album ready, and then it never happens. And it's cool that it's like it's happening, and like, you know, for so long I've wanted to be a part of that, and like just to have that done is just surreal because it's
Yeah.
just like, holy shit, like we
The
did
album.
it. Yeah, the album.
It's always been a dream.
This 73-minute album is out. It's not some like dinky EP that I printed in my parents' basement. It's that, you know, the label is Damsky Sound, you know, like made of some fake label that, you know, like
do that?
Was that
yeah,
your
I
big
did that with
label?
old shit. Yeah, I like had this like flying
Oh,
V icon
dude.
I made, and Damsky Sound. was the
Damsky
label.
Sound, dude.
Yeah, because I was like,
Can we
next
be on
record.
Damsky Sound?
Yeah, can
no,
this
man,
be released?
I'm sorry, Malcolm,
Artisan
I
Era
love
bought
you
us out,
guys.
man.
No, I want to be on Damsky Sound.
But like that was like, you know, I was like in 8th grade, like, you know, it's like, but that was the dream, and it's like being a kid, and like if I could, like that's the coolest thing I think is like if I go back in time to like freshman year of high school, me be like, dude, like you did it, you know, be like, oh shit, I did, that's sick, like fuck yeah, man.
Hell yeah.
And yeah, just to be able to tell young me like, just hang in there, dude. You know, eventually you'll shit'll work for you in some way, you know. But yeah.
Jason.
Oh yeah, I'm
Sorry.
stroking Hank's jowls right now. That's his dog. He's like totally into it too. He's just very like.
He's
Yeah,
also
he likes the, he
He's
likes
also
the jowl.
stroking his penis too.
Ew, stop.
You got a jar of peanut butter over there with your dog, man?
I don't. I'm not that kind of person. What was the question again? I'm sorry. You worded
What are
it
you-
very
what are you
well, and I
proud
was
of?
like, oh, I know I'm going to answer this, and then I forgot.
What are you proud of?
What am I proud of on it? I think the bigger contributions I made were more of like towards the concept of the record, and I'm kind of proud of. I'm probably most proud of that because I feel like it comes from a place of honesty, and some of the ideas that I did throw in there are loosely based on things that I've experienced, and the fact that you know, some of it is negative, and it was able to be filtered into this, you know,
Art.
this work of art, and it turned into more of a positive thing. I think that's something I'm really proud of, and it's like, you know, my other band, for example, Roman Ring, has an impending record that we're working on, and the whole, it's a concept record that I worked on a lot too, and it's a lot more like fiction based. But this is kind of like, well, it is technically fiction. It's based more in reality and, you know, things that have actually happened. And, you know, I think about it a lot when I listen to the record, and, you know, some of the ideas and the things I was going through, you know, at those times, and seeing that was able to be turned around into something positive, I think was really cool. And it's just cool that you're able to like have 4 other dudes be like down with that. You know what I mean? Because like when you're coming up with a record, and especially ideas for like, well, what is this about? It could be really hard, and you know, kind of getting somebody on the same page as that. But you know, being able to like work on some of those ideas with Adrian was really cool, and like that's probably what I'm the most proud of, was being able to contribute on that level, because like it's honestly I mean, from that aspect of it, I would say it's my favorite thing musically I've ever contributed to or like accomplished, as far as like coming up with the concept, of like contributing ideas to a concept, because I come up with a lot of shit sometimes that I don't think would suit this band, and then I'm like, oh, is this stupid, or is this cool, or is it stupid, or is it cool? But like this time I'm like, yeah, I like 100% back like what this record is about and what it kind of represents, and that's what I'm most proud of.
Okay. Yeah, dude, that's awesome to hear. Like, especially like when you put all that work into it, and you know, not doubting yourself at any point with like where you're going with it. I mean, getting the end product, it's got to be a good feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just comes from the level of honesty that's there. Because I mean, there's so many metal bands that like, you know, take Deicide, they're just singing about like, you know,
Satan.
Yeah, it's like or Cannibal Corpse or something like that, and that's cool. You know, like those bands have that's their world, and I respect it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if we try to do some shit like that, we couldn't do that.
Yeah,
like we'd be like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? It's like we're not there to do that. So being able to create like an honest record is what I'm the most proud of, I would say. Being able to contribute to something honest, and not something that's like not bullshit, but like something that's like
dishonest.
Yeah, not dishonest. I mean, maybe that's not the right term.
That it's not us.
Yeah, you know, like something that's not.
This record is very us.
Exactly. Yeah, it's it'll be an Us Weekly.
Yeah.
So keep your eyes peeled, guys.
Yeah.
How sick would that be?
Yeah,
that'd be so
cool.
sick.
That'd be fucking
in
awesome,
People
dude.
magazine.
I'd prefer to be in Cosmopolitan in the
Yeah.
sex tip section.
I want to be in.
What kind of Adrian sex tips would we get there?
What type of tips we get there?
Edging.
Well, when you're
Tips on edging.
edging in the van for 10 hours. Yeah, man, how to edge in a van when everybody's watching. That's the number one.
Call the column "Nightfall Came."
Yeah. Whoa! Yeah, that's good, man. Fuck yeah. Yeah, I'll save my tips for you know, after the album release. I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Well, what about you? What are you the most proud of with this record?
Oh man.
Here we go.
Yeah. A lot. I will say at this point, what's today? The 9th? Today's the 9th. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna give you a fucking long answer. And again,
Go for it.
Cut the whole thing out if you need to. So like, it's March 9th, and we've put out one single so far. We've been here before. We're getting ready to put out the second single. The album comes out in 2 months. For me, obviously this is a lot of work, like years of work, years of arguments, thousands of dollars, thousands of hours, obviously because it's years, millions of seconds,
Thousands of dollars an hour.
trillions of milliseconds. Lots of time, lots of effort, lots of thinking, lots of everything. So for me, like at bare minimum, I'm with Max that like it's cool to have an album period, because I've never been on an album, I've never written an album, I've never like been part of an album. So to have this as the first one, it's just like that's like exciting and it feels cool. And to have something that like, because I go through phases a lot. Like I pick up habits, and I like pick up like I had a whittling phase where I really wanted to get whittling things.
What was that? I remember that.
No, I was in like grade school. I saw the movie Saw, and I really wanted to whittle like my own puppet doll. and I got up to the I did the arms and the legs, and I got to the torso. I was like, this is too much. My hands fucking hurt, man.
I didn't know you did that.
Yeah,
Sick.
I didn't finish.
Now the real question is, were you gonna fuck that doll?
Oh, absolutely, of course, man, of course. I had the first thing I finished was the little fuck sleeve part of it. Duh.
The fuck sleeve?
Yeah, man, you just slip your willy right in it. It feels good, man. So yeah, I go through phases. So I still worry like every day, like, man, is today the day that I stop giving a shit about music? So to have finished something, I don't even finish my meals. I always leave food on the plate. I know it's really bad. I don't finish things. I'm not good at finishing things. So to finish something, that on its own is just like, fuck yeah, it feels good.
Yeah, for sure.
And then on top of that, just like, I don't know, just to have the album come out the way it did between like all the guest spots, which that was just that was an effort of, that was like the amount of effort that it took to like putting the album together. I probably put that same amount of time and effort into getting the guest spots and like working with them. It's like working with 14 other people on like trying to get them to like get. I mean, everyone had different like spots I had to work with them on, but still, like it was hard, man.
Do you mind going into that for a second? Because I am actually really curious about that.
Yeah. What part? The guest spots?
Just the guest spots, yeah, and like who did what, where.
Yeah, so like that was an idea. I don't know, like. So Brody from Rivers did a guest solo on Essence of the Land, the EP we put out in 2014. And I always really loved collaboration, and up until this year now with, you know, Equipoise and Devin Townsend and everybody doing collaboration, like it was something that I thought was kind of absent. I mean, you see super groups, but you don't often see like an album full of features in the same way that you see that in like rap and hip hop music. Like you go to Spotify and go to like what's his name? He has a song Cha Cha Dram. If you go to a Dram album, like every song has at least a guest spot. Like the most obvious one, Kendrick Lamar to Pimp a Butterfly. That whole album is collaboration, and that's, I think that's something that. And again, I'm fucking completely new to this shit, so maybe I'm completely wrong, but like I feel like that's something that the metal community needs. It needs more like collaboration, because collaboration fuels community. And
yes,
yeah, it's the shit, man. So yeah, it just like I was like, fuck, you know, it'd be really cool if like you just got a bunch of people to, you know, put in their own personality on the record. Because I know some of the records that I like the most are records that each song has its own like flavor or color. Like we'll go back to the Sumerian days, like after the Burial's Rare Form, like every song on that has its own like personality. Planetary Duality, every song on that there has its own like at least one moment in the song that's like there's that style is only in that one song, you know?
Yeah.
And the opportunities are endless once you start bringing in other people from like different areas of the metal spectrum, you know, take Naveen. Like obviously he's like a drummer, but like he's also a really fucking sick guitar player. And like, have you ever heard of Flesh Rot? You fuck with that band?
Yeah.
That's my shit, man. I love that record. And like his flavor, Naveen's flavor in like guitar, and I guess more so rhythm, because he's like a rhythm guy, is like completely different than say like, I don't know, Pohawk or Austin or Kevin. Like there's all these different like flavors, but bringing them all together is just like, I don't know. It's just something that I thought would be really interesting to do, and I'm really happy with the way that it came out, you know.
And I mean, it does add an extra dimension to the song itself too when you have that guest spot, and that's fucking awesome. Because I agree, man. you were mentioning that, and I was kind of thinking up until those records, like, what is the last kind of guest spot or guest thing I could think of? And I really honestly couldn't think of very much. It's just like so rare.
That band, Depths of Hatred, when they put out a music video for the song. Do you remember the name of the song?
I think it was called Revocation.
Yeah, Revocation. Yeah. And they had Elliot from Beneath the Massacre do guest vocals on the song.
Yeah.
Music video. Elliot fucking kicks a truck.
Yeah.
And he kicks a wall down. How sick was that shit? That blew my mind when I first saw it.
Dude, Elliot's on the new Devin Townsend record.
Yeah, I want to hear that.
Yeah.
That's nuts, dude.
Yeah.
I think we're all waiting to hear that. Yeah.
It's very jarring when you hear it. You're just like, what the fuck? Like, dude, he's a monster. He's a fucking monster of a vocalist.
Is he on like the majority of the song or just like a part?
It's literally just like a part. Yeah, it's not very long at all.
That's fine. I was still.
It works.
The closest thing I get to new Beneath the Massacre, so.
Yeah.
Oh, hey, I got some news for you, buddy. They've been working on stuff for like a year now.
I keep hearing that, but like, I don't see anything.
I know.
Is it like they're doing like a record, or are they?
Yeah,
Yeah, I toured with them for a couple tours, and the last time I talked to Chris, he said that they have like songs ready to go. It's just that everybody's working like full-time jobs and getting married, so they're just kind of doing it at their own pace. But they definitely have stuff ready to go, and they're gonna put something out.
That's cool.
That's sick. I hope they do it and get divorced and be a just kidding. But I love that band so much.
Married to each other. Yeah, me too. That's it. That band. Oh man, they're so pissed. They're so pissed all the time. So good.
But they're like the nicest guys ever.
Yeah.
You wouldn't think that from how angry their music is.
Yeah.
Well, shit, guys. I've been keeping you for like 2.5 hours now. You've been my prisoners here.
It's all good.
Not at all.
It's getting late.
You could go for another 4 if you'd like.
I could do it, man. We'll bust out like a 6-hour Joe Rogan podcast. But I mean, besides that, we'll kind of end out here.
Yeah.
I guess with final thoughts of the record. Like, what's something? Actually, let's see here. I'm kind of blanking at the moment.
Wait, can I add one other note to the guest spot part?
Yeah.
It was also something that I wanted to try to get people that like 12-year-old, maybe not 12-year-old me, but like 14-year-old me would be like stoked on. Like,
oh hell yeah,
it's fun. It's fun. Like whether it's because I can't help but to worry. There are going to be criticisms about stuff like that. Like, oh, are they going to do it live? Like, oh, we'll fucking figure it out, man. But like, I don't know. It's
figure it out, bud.
Yeah, it's fun, Like,
dude. Yeah, like we have Dallas Toller Wade was the singer of Nile on our record.
Yeah.
Like that. Like I was talking earlier, Annihilation of the Wicked being one of my favorite albums of all time. The lead vocalist on that record is on our record, which is fucking insane.
Yeah,
to me.
It's just exactly. Like on a personal level, it's just like, oh, it's exciting. I love all these people are my idols, and I got to like talk with them, and like they like contributed to some stupid fucking thing that I wrote.
Yeah, and then they're like down with it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, this is pretty good." And it's like, "Oh, are you sure?"
I feel like I used a cheat code.
Yeah, it's good.
Hell yeah,
Yeah.
dude. That's a good way to put it, man. Yeah.
What cheat code was it though?
The get to like play with your idol cheat code.
Yeah, it's my favorite from
Big
Grand
head
Theft Auto
mode, man.
Vice City.
Fuck, man. Yeah. It's cool.
Yeah, big head mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best cheat code.
That's why I am right now.
It is a good
Definitely
one.
big head mode right now. Look at me.
I mean, I got to imagine like approaching those guys was like pretty nerve-wracking for you too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Because it's hard. I don't know. I still haven't figured it out how to not be a fucking doofus talking to any of these people.
Yeah,
like,
it's
hi. I get it.
It's totally like.
Do you want to do with this band from Chicago? Do you want to do a solo on the song? Can I tell you the whole concept? And I fucking talk for like 3 hours.
Yeah, we approached. I'll just one quick story is we approached Kevin Hufnagel from Gorguts and Dysrhythmia
Yeah, I had him on the podcast. He's awesome.
Yeah, he is awesome.
What a
like
fucking crazy player. Man.
We hit him up and we were like, "Yo, would you be interested in doing some guest work?" And literally right away, he's like, "Yeah, I'm down."
Yeah,
We're
he
like,
was down,
"Okay."
man.
Like
It was
he was like,
awesome.
"Yeah, just send me the song," and we did. And then he was like, "We were like, yeah, like," and he was like, "Yeah, I hope you guys like don't mind." And he was like one of the first guys. He might have been the first guy we hit up.
Yeah.
And like, we were. I remember because I was at my old job. I was a driver for a bakery, and me and Adrian were on the phone all day that day, like going back and forth. And he messaged us, and he was like, "Yeah, like I just require a little bit of compensation." And we were like, "Yeah, okay." Like we expected that. And then I was like, and we were like, "Yeah." It was just the way he worked was so. I mean, he was just like he was like, "Yeah, like send me the song." We did it,
cut and dry.
and then literally like he was like, "Yeah, I'll have something for you tonight," and we were like, "Oh wow, what?" And then like, did we get it that night or the next day?
I think it was the next day because I remember I was at my girlfriend's old apartment, and we were doing laundry. And I was laying on the bed, and I remember because I was like really fucking dead that day because we had a late night, and I saw a message from him, and it said Kevin sent a voice message, and I was like, "What is this? Is this him talking? Is he gonna say hello or something to me?" And it was the fucking solo, and I heard it. And I remember specifically like rising out of bed, like, "Oh shit!"
Yeah, he nailed it too.
Cool,
like,
yeah.
He like hit it right out of the park.
Cool. Yeah.
Did we?
What track is he on?
He's on track 6, "Eat Them While They Sleep," along with Stevie Boiser.
Damn.
Inferior
Good old
equipoise.
buddy Stevie.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool, man. I'm excited to hear that track now too, because Kevin's one of my favorite guitar players.
Dude,
Oh,
isn't
he's
he
so
nuts?
great.
Isn't he fucking nuts,
Yeah.
man? Oh,
Absolutely.
God.
He turned me onto a bunch of music too when I was talking to him. He's like, "Oh, you like this? Well, you should check this out and this out." And I was like, "Done." Like, and sure enough, I fucking loved everything he said I should check out.
I gotta listen to that.
Yeah.
Does he
awesome.
talk about that on the podcast?
Yeah, I think we do actually. Yeah. We get into this conversation about like old 80s kind of synth pop stuff.
Oh, hell
fuck
yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got that one band
Well-
that kind of has that vibe, right? The Vara, are they?
Vara.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, especially that new song they just put out. It sounds a lot like one of the bands he mentioned. And I was like, "Oh shit!" Like I'm really hearing now like that influence in it.
That's cool.
I haven't heard that new song. I'll have to check it out.
It's pretty good. I'm pretty stoked about that record. What are some things you guys are stoked about this year as far as music?
Oh man.
Yeah, I will be completely honest. I haven't listened to anything new recently, just because like I've been so knee deep with this album, and now working like every day on the music video. All I fucking listen to is this record. And I love it because it's my baby, but like at the same time I fucking hate it, and I wanna get out of it.
Personally, I'm very excited for my favorite album that came out last year was an album by a pop band called the 1975, and it's called a brief inquiry into online relationships. And the whole idea is like they did that record last year, and they're putting out another one this year, and I'm like very hyped. They haven't like put out anything from the one from this year yet, but I'm very excited to hear it because like I listened to that last one so fucking much. So I'm very hyped for that. As far as metal goes, I'm trying to think. There's bands. I mean, that new Devin Townsend, I definitely want to hear it just because of like all the talk around all the Chad from Nickelback and then Elliot from Beneath the Massacre on the same record. Like, what? But that'll be.
It's pretty good, man. I like it a lot.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to hear that. I'm trying to think. There's a bunch of new shit that I'm trying to be more keen on. I'm looking forward to hear that new Fallujah album that's going to be dropping next week. I actually
that I did not like.
Yeah, you know what? I've
just me.
Seen some mixed things, but I do like the singles, and I'm interested to hear the whole thing.
I want to give it a listen.
I'm excited for that new Inferi is dropping the re-recording of their album, The End of an Era, which is the first record I heard by them. So I'm pretty excited to hear how that sounds with their full lineup because their drummer, Spencer, their current drummer, is like not only is he like one of the sickest dudes, but he's such a fucking good player.
Yeah, he's an
and just
player.
based off like the clips they've shown of him, like upgrade these drum parts, it's like, oh fuck, like this is real shit. So I'm very pumped to hear that too. I'm sure there's more. I just can't think of it. But
Yeah, I can't think of anything right now.
that Soilwork was. Well, I already. Came out. That's
Soilwork
good.
and Evergrey already came out.
Oh, you
Those
know what?
are my excited for 2019
Spotify.
albums.
That new Flesh God. I like that new Flesh God single they just dropped the other.
Yeah, that is actually pretty good, man. It's very different from their past stuff. Not as blasty, which I kind of like.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like a song, which is so sick to me. I'm just like, oh fuck, like this is really cool. So I am pumped on that. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, this other band called Numenorian. They're a Canadian band. They're kind of like,
that's in April, right?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
does look
They
cool.
have an album coming out in April. They've put out 2 singles, and they're bangers. They are so fucking good. So I'm very excited to hear that whole record when it drops. I really like the first one. Trying to think.
Yeah, I'm looking on Spotify trying to look at stuff and see which.
Yeah,
bands
I was really excited for the new Juice World album that came out yesterday. That's pretty cool. I'm a big fan.
Isn't Contortionist coming out with new stuff? I thought.
Yeah, they have an EP coming out.
Yeah,
They're supposed to be having an EP.
Yeah, I feel like there's a bunch of cool stuff coming out this year. I just can't think of it.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
Yeah.
I've listed like
It's a
7
lot.
things I'm pumped for, so that's probably enough. But
I'm weird too, where like I'll listen to shit a year or two after it comes out because
me
like
too.
I'm not in the mood for it when it comes out, and I just I decide to listen to it later. So.
yeah, it depends on the band. I am too. Like, I'm definitely curious. Like, there are certain records that I'm sure will come out that I'm like, ugh, I just don't want to listen to it right now. Niall has
gotta
a
be in
new
the mood.
record in the works, and I'll listen to it when it comes out. I don't know if I'm necessarily super pumped for it, but it'll be the first one without Dallas, so I'm curious to hear how that'll sound. Trying to think. There's one other band I just found out is coming out with a new record. I'm like, oh, I wonder what that'll sound like, but I'm like blanking on it right now. So
It's fair enough. It's early in the year anyways. I mean, so much more time.
one more. I actually, and Max, I'm pretty sure vouch for this too. Those new Whitechapel songs are like really fucking good.
Yeah, I really like them. Yeah, I'm excited for that album. I'm very
Yeah, so
excited for
that's kind of cool because like I haven't listened to that band in years, and
Same. And they were like a local band to me, so it's like weird.
oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
But that song Black Bear is like so sick, and so is the last single they just put out.
When a demon defiles a witch.
Yeah,
whatever.
that one's really cool too. Got that Hinder clean vocal part in the middle. Sounds like a Hinder.
Sick, yeah.
Yeah, it is sick.
Spotify Adrian.
It's still early in the year. Though. Like it's like I feel like March is the first month where bands really start to releases are starting to come together.
Oh yeah,
I agree.
The band Warforged, they got that album coming out May 10th.
Yes.
So.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Really.
I actually am looking forward to getting on vinyl and just like,
Yeah, I want to
Having it, yeah,
really
that'll be
wanna
cool.
wait.
Yeah, so that's pretty much all I could think of.
I'm at the tease. I still.
There's another singer I really like. His name is No Rome. He's working on another EP. He put out one last year that I thought was great, and it's like R&B mixed with like shoegaze. It's really fucking cool if you're into that sort of thing. But he's got apparently he's supposed to be dropping a new EP this year, and I'm very much looking forward to that. So
Yeah.
Well, guys, I want to thank you very much for your time. Y'all look like you're about to fall asleep. It's fair. No, but seriously, thank you so much for doing this, man. This was awesome. This was fun. I'm glad I got to talk to all you guys.
absolutely.
man.
yeah, good times.
Yeah, anytime you want to come on again, we'll get some Adrian sex tips, whatever.
Dude, let's
Fuck
keep
yeah,
going.
I'm
You
down,
guys
man.
could go. I'm gonna just chill here the whole night.
I'm gonna take off my clothes and get these sex tips
Yeah,
going.
episode 2.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I await our sequel, our sexy sequel.
Absolutely. What? Oh man, we'll call it Warfucked. Is that good? Oh man. All right. So that has been Max, Adrian, and Jason. Thank you guys so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Take care.
having us.
Be excellent to each other and